Part 45. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 442. It rained just yesterday, dispelling the summer heat. Inside the governor's mansion, the lush magnolia trees had lost many of their flowers and leaves due to the heavy rain, which was a pity. Counterattack took a broom and looked at the magnolia petals on the ground, thinking that since there were rose cakes and rose tea, the magnolia flowers might have other uses. It cannot be said that British ships are cooking idiots, they will always be cooking idiots. To be honest, after such a long period of training, her cooking skills are now barely passable. After all, she has been laughed at for a long time, and she is no longer the person who only knows how to fight back with potatoes and salted fish. Now she always has many fantastic ideas. Although from the perspective of outsiders, the counterattack has moved from one extreme to the other, only the craftsmanship of making dark cuisine remains unchanged. Fletcher, what do you think of these magnolias? Just as the words of counterattack came out, shouts came. I hope you don't run away. Zai and Xianxiang ran in front, and the petals suddenly turned into mud. Pursing her lips, she watched the little girl playing around under the tree, destroying all the good petals. I originally had some thoughts, but now I am completely out of mood. Neither Zai nor Fang Xiang knew that they had unintentionally saved the town mansion. Utopia, wait for me. The two little girls gradually ran away, holding the broom and sweeping all the flowers and leaves into a dustpan without hesitation, and then poured them into the bamboo basket next to them as a large trash can. Fletcher turned around at this time and said, Sister Counterattack, what's going on? Nothing. Well, I just want to ask, how do you feel about your work during this time? Even without me around, you can still do a good job. You have to have some confidence in yourself. Fletcher is a girl. She has a super figure and is a good sister and a good ship girl. In the past, one person worked a good job to support his sister. Back at the guardhouse, my sister didn't need much care anymore, but she still couldn't calm down. She studied under counterattack as a trainee maid. Some time ago, counterattack left the town for several days. As a maid, she took on the responsibility of counterattack and managed the trivial affairs of the town hall. It's not as well managed as the counterattack, but there's still a lot to learn. Fletcher said, fortunately, speaking of which, Sister Counterattack went out, did you find any clues? Sugu went out, and he also went out a few days later. She suddenly wanted to go to the address where her sister's reputation had left her to look for clues, so the maid job during this period was given to Fletcher. Fortunately, Fletcher fulfilled her duties and completed her job well, but her affairs made no progress, and she found no clues about her sister's reputation. He counterattacked, it's been so long, and now everything has changed. Her sister's reputation has not yet come back, and as a maid, she will probably surpass her. My sister definitely doesn't know the Admiral's preferences now, what kind of food he likes, and what kind of girls he likes. Thinking like this, she stood under the tree crown and raised her head. Zai and Utopia had disappeared. Counterattack, Fletcher, actually you can be like them. Fletcher waved his hand and said, you can't stop when you get busy, so you'd better be a maid. He countered, you know most of the maid's jobs, so you have to learn how to serve the master in the future. Ah! Fletcher's face turned red and he smiled back, thinking that at such a young age he had to pretend to be a grown-up lady. Destroyers don't need to work, being a destroyer is indeed the best choice. Although I need to attend classes every day and learn all kinds of knowledge. In fact, there are not many courses. After all, they are ship girls, so there is no need to force them to study. They will not grow up like ordinary people, and will most likely remain children throughout their lives. Learning knowledge depends more on their self-consciousness. Just as Sigsby's consciousness is to learn how to be a little lady, her learning object is Lexington. Although she is different from Lexington, she also likes to dress up and learn to be a little fairy. It is obvious that she still likes to wear bra as a little girl. Thatcher had no self-awareness. She slept in class, drooled all over the table, and ran around after class. No brain was instigated to lift Helena's skirt, and then was slapped on the palm many times. The life of a destroyer is very leisurely, and they even have time to think and scare themselves. Sitting beside the stone bench outside the playground, Thatcher said, "The Admiral has been out for many days. Will he not want us any more?" Sullivan is the most upright and kind-hearted girl among the three sisters. She said, "No, the Admiral has gone to a very far-away place. He is also accompanied by Akagya, Richelieu, and Sister Guam. He can run away even if he wants to. He can't leave. Now we won't let him go out alone. He must be accompanied by someone. Who told him to sneak away alone before?" Sigsbee wove a wreath and put it on her head. She said, "Maybe Akagya, Richelieu, and Sister Guam stayed behind and eloped with the Admiral. She can still speak a few idioms. Although she is keen on being a lady, dressing up, and learning foxy tricks, she has not stopped studying. She knows very well that learning from an idiot will not make people like her." Sullivan hesitated and said, "No." As soon as Sullivan finished speaking, a voice sounded beside them. "Of course not. The Admiral will definitely come back. He promised me." The voice came from Xiaozai, and she trusted Sugu the most. Xiaozai wears short sleeves and shorts. If you don't look at the cute little face and short fluffy hair, he looks like a little boy from the back. Well, just from the back, Xiaozai is equally adorable and has nothing to do with the little boy. Around her are dreams, they come to find someone to play with. Even though they are all little girls, they have their own circles and are not together. Sigsbee, Thatcher, and Sullivan's sisters were in a group. Xiaozai held a kettle for watering the flowers and said, "Let's go to the beach and build a sand castle." With nothing to do, their minds began to wander, and Sullivan and Thatcher readily agreed. Sigsbee hesitated for a moment. She used to call herself a little lady, and piling sand obviously did not match her ladylike image. Sigsbee hesitated and said, "Will Amethyst go?" Xiaozai nodded heavily and said, "Go." "Then I'll go too, I want to bury her." "Yeah, let's bury the Amethyst. That would be the most interesting." Burying the amethyst quartz with only one head exposed is also what Xiaozai wants to do most. Sigsbee smiled as he imagined the amethyst being buried and everyone dancing around. She looked into the distance and suddenly saw a small figure walking by. She said, "Let's call Cushing along. The Admiral wants us to play with her more." "Then go ahead and call Cushing. The little house is full of dreams, just like a big sister." Due to Sugu's favor, she has always been dignified among little girls. After all, no matter how hard it is to say that the palms and backs of the hands are all flesh, everyone will be treated fairly. No one can be absolutely fair and just. Everyone in the governor's mansion can still notice that their admiral's favorite is the small house, which makes people a little jealous. Of course, Sugu has never treated Xiaozai beyond the standard. He just prefers hugging Xiaozai, so everyone is just jealous. Kong wanted to call Cushing, so Xiaozai and the others headed to the Golden Beach outside the governor's mansion, talking on the way. Sullivan said, "Cushing is not our sister yet. She has not even been called Admiral yet. She is always called brother." Xiaozai said, "Aunt Zeppelin has never been called Admiral, but now she is the same as Sister Miao and Sister Prince." Although Chi Bolin had never called Admiral Sugu, in fact, she was now used to thinking about the governor's house. She had never called her Admiral Sugu, and no one really regarded her as an instructor, or a stranger. Zeppelin's attitude is visible to everyone. Xiaozai can feel it, just like Cushing. Sigsbee said, "Aunt Zeppelin, no, only you dare to call Aunt Zeppelin," Sister Zeppelin doesn't seem to be in the townhouse recently. I heard that she went to the academy. She seems to be going to write questions for the exam. As an instructor at Chuangzhou Naval Academy, even though he always stayed in the garrison, Zeppelin still couldn't let go of things in the academy. When the Colossus came to ask for help, Zeppelin had already left the garrison for a long time. You can ignore other things, but recruiting new students is still more important. Although it is said that the college recruits new students every year, the assessment is too difficult. In fact, there are not many students every year. Looking at the whole world, these people are actually just small splashes. Xiao Zai said, I took the exam with the admiral, and I also did the questions, I couldn't understand them all. Sigsby said, I met the admiral at Sichuan Show. Sullivan said with a smile, Sigsby was scared away by the admiral. Sigsby frowned, thinking it was embarrassing. As the group walked, Thatcher looked around at the group and suddenly said, Where's Raffi? Xiao Zai said, Lafite was called by York City and Sister Bumblebee to help with training. She has the best air defense. Sullivan snickered, You will know more and do more. Xiao Zai tilted her head. She had been with Sugu the longest and received the most education. I thought to myself, there's nothing to be proud of. It's better to pretend that you don't know how to do it after you know it. As they talked like this, they took shovels, shoriads, buckets and various other things to the beach. On the beach, Sigsby said, Amethyst hasn't come here yet. There are also submarines U-47, U-81, and U-505. Didn't you call them? Of course, the young submarine girl is also the type who is naughty and does nothing all day long. They are both German ships, and Xiao Zai also likes to play with submarines. Xiao Zai said, I don't know why Amethyst Quartz hasn't come yet. Anyway, if she doesn't come yet, let's use this reason to bury her. U-47, U-81, and U-505, they said they wanted to go to the bottom of the sea to pick up some shells and coral, which are then used to decorate sand castles. Then they put down their things on the beach and began to build a castle with sand on the beach. First, use a garden watering can to wet the sand so that it doesn't spread randomly. They divided the work and worked together to build the city wall first and then the castle. Halfway through the construction process, Amethyst Quartz came over. She squatted next to her and looked at the big castle where the little girl was tall. Amethyst Quartz habitually said, It's not beautiful at all. It must be done by the most powerful designer Amethyst Quartz. Xiao Zai looked at Amethyst Quartz, who was making sarcastic remarks. Her eyes narrowed, revealing a sense of danger. Amethyst, how about we bury you in the sand, and then build a castle on you? Amethyst said displeasedly, Why are you burying me? You are bullying me again. I will file a complaint. You are the big devil, we are going to seal you underground. Amethyst was easy to deal with, and she immediately said happily, Well, I am the great demon king, so that is not impossible. Saying this, Amethyst was a person who did what she said. She lay straight on the beach and said, Just bury it. Wait a moment while we dig a hole. Just pile the sand on me. Why dig a hole? Of course you have to put it upright and bury it, otherwise you wouldn't have gotten up all at once. Alas. Purple Quartz looked at the several people working enthusiastically, with a panic expression on her face. Several people dug holes for a long time. Looking to the side, Amethyst had already run away. Sigsby looked at the large hole that had been dug half a person deep, and she said, Amethyst is so timid, we are just scaring her. Amethyst ran away and Sigsby looked at Thatcher. She thought for a while, that was her sister, so she might as well forget it, otherwise she would definitely be taught a lesson by her sister when she went back. Not knowing who to trick and finding it boring, Sigsby dropped the shovel in her hand and said, Why haven't U-47, U-81, and U-505 come back yet? They didn't come back. I wonder what they did. Is something going to happen? It should be fine. U-47, U-81, and U-505 were originally touching stones, shells, starfish, corals and flounder on the seabed. In fact, they had been preparing to go back, but they encountered some accidents. They saw two ship girls on the sea outside the Toot Larry mansion. The two ship girls were wandering around the Toot Larry mansion. U-47 surfaced and said, "Their ship uniforms are similar, they should be sister ships. Red hair and blue hair, do you know each other?" "Do not know." "Do not know. What are they doing?" "They are sneaking around. Look, they are talking in a low voice again. Let's go ask." I wanted to grab their feet and drag them under the water. The big mackerel used to do this all the time. She always dragged Daifeng's feet. Daifeng is our sister, so it's okay to joke. These two don't know each other. If you drag their feet, you will be hated. Then just go and ask them who they are. U-47 said, they wanted to go up and ask questions, but before they got close, they saw the two people sailing away. They left. They left again. It feels like we can't catch up. Our speed is so slow, only a dozen knots. I want to launch torpedoes at them. No, keep chasing, otherwise we should go back. If it still doesn't work, I'll go back and let everyone know. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai-De-Rong Yan. Chapter 443. Leipzig is actually quite satisfied with his current life, which is much better than wandering around before. Life was too difficult when he was homeless, especially when he later became an assistant in Bazai, and even his salary was not guaranteed. Although he still has no salary when he returns to the town hall now. The Admiral always likes to say, "The purpose of my work is not to work in the future." That means making money. Once you have a salary and money, there is no need to work anymore. But for me, if I want a salary, I just like the feeling of saving money and collecting. His dream is to make his bed with gold coins and collect the entire treasure chest of gold coins, but for this he is always laughed at like a greedy dragon. There's nothing wrong with being greedy for money, as long as you don't do anything that violates discipline. A gentleman loves money and gets it in a proper way. You can control me. Returned to the town hall and now works in management. The work of managing the town hall is actually very easy, and there is no need to stand guard all the time. If you are really anxious to get something, you can take it in advance and fill in the form afterwards, or you can just fill in the form directly. When things are not busy, she likes to watch the excitement in her free time. For example, it's super interesting to watch Bismarck and the Prince of Wales quarrel, but it's a pity that they can't fight. Otherwise, look at your Admiral and Saratoga. The two of them were sneaking around somewhere and deliberately took several photos. I don't know whether it should be said that the Admiral seduced and counterattacked, or that the Admiral counterattacked and seduced, but anyway, they almost kissed her. I like watching the Admiral bring smoothies to Kent. Kent's pitiful eyes make people want to pity him. During this period, the most interesting thing was watching the anti-pornography and anti-illegal activities organized by Bismarck. The most interesting thing was watching Bazai's helplessness. "Humph, who told you that you didn't pay me my salary in the first place, but you actually used this book to pay off the debt?" Speaking of which, Bazai actually asked me to draw a book during this period, but of course he refused. How could he possibly help? Although Bismarck didn't have much, he did have the Gestapo Prince Eugen. I like to watch Yorktown and Hornet practice carrier-based aircraft. Watch them control the carrier-based aircraft to practice diving actions. However, when they were close to the sea, the carrier-based aircraft could not pull up and rushed directly into the sea and was scrapped. Watching the four cat-eared sisters walking in the corridor of the town hall, the wind blew and each of them wore different colors of underwear. It's also quite interesting to watch little girls doing things, but of course, only if someone like Amethyst is there to take the responsibility of being the victim. At noon in August, Leipzig was wearing a sleeveless white shirt with ruffles, blue cropped pants, and sunglasses pinned to the collar. The sunglasses must be pinned to the neckline. They cannot be put directly into the neckline like Helena did, otherwise they will fall off. She has a figure that is too slender and can be said to be shriveled. From a distance, I saw Xiaozai taking everyone to the beach, and later I saw Amethyst Quartz passing by. I wondered if there was any fun to watch, so I followed her. Under the parasol on the golden beach, she took off her sandals and slept on the lounge chair with her legs curled up. She also deliberately took a can of cold beer, took a sip and placed it on the table next to her. Then she looked at the little girl in the distance and thought that the best game was to play watermelon. If that didn't work, she could also play violent beach volleyball. It would also be very interesting to pile up sand and bury someone in it. Anyway, don't play a little girl's game like throwing a handkerchief. That's it? Why have you been building a castle? Why don't you do something interesting? She remembered that the Prince of Wales and the Admiral were bored and built a fort with sand and newspapers, and then the little girl broke it. The Admiral thought it didn't matter. The Prince of Wales looked ugly all afternoon, frightening his dream of destroying the fort. Amethyst is really annoying. I've been here before, and now I'm here. Finally started digging holes. You actually let Amethyst get away. Hurry up and catch her, these little brats, these naughty kids. Okay, Amethyst actually dared to come back on her own. Yes, that's it, just press her into the hole and expose her head. Why aren't U-47 submarines here today? U-47 is also a guy who likes to cause trouble. When Leipzig finally finished the beer slowly, he finally saw everyone burying the amethyst quartz in the sand. They were quite far apart, so I don't know what they said, but Amethyst still looked very happy. So as a warehouse manager, should I support them with a big watermelon, a bat, and a blindfold? They started building a castle around Amethyst's head sticking out of the sand. It was interesting and they knew how to play, but unfortunately they forgot to bring the camera. Someone got up in the sea, it turned out to be U-47 submarines. They finally arrived. Leipzig watched several submarines swim up from the sea. They were chattering there, seeming to be gesticulating about something. They were gesticulating for a long time, but unfortunately they couldn't hear them. It's a bit far away, so you can't really hear it. U-47, you said there are people walking around outside the town hall. Yes. They. U-47 spoke and gestured. Sister ships, who are the red hair and the blue hair? Sigsby, do you know? Sigsby said seriously, the red hair is Dafeng, and the blue hair is Quincy. Xiaozai said loudly, how is it possible? They can't fight together. Let's ask someone. Sister Leipzig is there. She came here very early. Sister York is picking up shells over there too. In the summer, it's not surprising for anyone in the town's mansion to appear on the beach. She always touches my head. Let's find Sister Leipzig. The character of the heavy cruiser York jumps out of joy. Just like that, Leipzig saw Kotaku and Sigsby running to him with bare feet. Sister Leipzig, we discovered. After some exchanges, Leipzig frowned and took it seriously. The red-haired and blue-haired sister ships were sneaking around the garrison. San Juan and Atlanta meet the criteria, but it's impossible for these two little girls not to know each other. It's a pity that the little girl obviously can't describe the other person's appearance. Well, in fact, the appearance is meaningless. After thinking for a moment, Leipzig said, let's go and take a look. Saying this, she reached out and rubbed Xiaozai's face, feeling the smoothness in her hands. No wonder my admiral likes it so much, it feels so good in the hand. Let's go. No matter what their purpose is, go and ask them. When Leipzig got up, she put on her sunglasses and looked like a coquettish girl. The dormitories and teaching buildings in the town hall are not very tall, and their exterior decoration is a bit crude, hidden among the tall and dense tree canopy. There is a long step from the gate of the townhouse to the pier, and then there is a flat pier with several containers. 2 yachts are docked next to it, tied to the bitts with cables. There was another person standing next to the dock. She was a short-haired girl with sexy and toned long legs. Judging from the ship's uniform, she was an aircraft carrier. The red-haired girl and the blue-haired girl were lingering nearby, watching from a distance, not knowing what to do, a strange person in a strange townhouse. The blue-haired girl said, "Do we really want to go back? What else can we do if we don't go back? I don't know if it's our garrison yet. You said come over and see why you chickened out. There are so many people in Lexington, Bismarck, and the Prince of Wales. It feels like our garrison. In our townhouse, the Admiral is really back." The blue-haired girl frowned and said, "I don't know, maybe we just get together again. Because the town can't live without an admiral is still an admiral, but just like the tomb of an admiral, it's not impossible. Even if they are all here, if the admiral is not here, I won't bother to go back, it's better to just leave it like this. I feel a bit shy about being close to home, that's how the idiom is used. I don't know, don't ask me. We've come this far, it's just a matter of going in and taking a look." The blue-haired girl said, "I'm still a little worried about what to do. By the way, did you feel anything just now? It seems like someone is following us." "I did not see it. It's not that I saw it, it was in the water. It seemed like there were fish and submarines following us." "Submarine, just drop depth charges, lots and lots of them. Not a bathyscaphe, not an enemy. Then why are you worried?" "Just worried." The red-haired girl reached out and touched the blue-haired girl's forehead and said, "Suspicious, you no longer have a gold nugget box." The two people squatted on the sea, and the red-haired girl continued, "Okay, muster up your courage, this is how it will be no matter what." The blue girl nodded, and then suddenly said, "Radar detection, it seems someone is approaching us." "A submarine again?" "No. They came over and saw them." "Who?" Before the red-haired girl turned her head, she heard a voice. "You guys are looking at our town hall. What's wrong?" When Leipzig and Zai found each other, it didn't take much time. Several U-47 submarines were left behind because their speed was too slow. Sure enough, it was just like what a few little girls said. As soon as they got closer, they saw the other party squatting on the sea, looking at the sneaky appearance of the governor's mansion. However, punishing one's actions does not mean punishing one's heart. As long as she doesn't do bad things, as a ship girl, she won't just label people as bad people. Leipzig asked again and said, "Do you have anything?" As she spoke, she looked at the red-haired and blue-haired girls. Their faces were somewhat familiar, but she couldn't remember who they were. Maybe it's the ship girl outside, coming to seek refuge or seek help. The two girls also saw a blonde girl wearing sunglasses, wearing large sunglasses covering half of her face, and they didn't recognize her either. The little girl next to him recognized him at a glance. She was Xiaozai, the Xiaozai who was most favored by her admiral. If opening the cabin is like inspecting the dormitory, when Sugu opened the cabin, his eyes would always stay on the small house for a long time. For everyone, this was like liking the small house. From time to time, Xiaozai would be pulled out by Sugu to work as a secretary for a long time, and then replaced again. Although other ship girls occasionally received such treatment, it was only once when they changed into new clothes, but Xiaozai was different. "I have been working as a secretary ship for a long time, and I work as a secretary ship for half a day from time to time, so I know everyone." Seeing the small house, the two girls had happy expressions on their faces. The red-haired girl said, "I am aggressive. I am Jade. Xiaozai shook her head. She didn't even know San Juan, let alone the two ship girls in front of her. These two names sounded familiar to Leipzig, but I couldn't remember who they were. After all, many people in the garrison, especially the British and German ships, have never been dealt with. Besides, as a member of the expedition team, Leipzig still has to go on expeditions every day even when the garrison is in grass. Of course, she is not a little girl, and she is more or less familiar with the people in the governor's mansion. That must be the ship girl from my own town hall. I just can't remember when I arrived at the townhouse and what I usually do. It feels like a symbol. Leipzig took off his sunglasses to see more clearly, but she was already recognized over there. Leipzig, you are Leipzig, you can't recognize me with sunglasses on. Leipzig has a headache, and he is quick to think. If he doesn't know him, he can pretend to know him. Hello, welcome back. Xiaozai tugged on Leipzig's pants and said, are you the sister of our town hall? Yes. Xiaozai's dream has always been to rebuild the former town, the most powerful town. Although he still didn't recognize her, it didn't stop Xiaozai from opening his hand enthusiastically and saying, welcome home. Jade with short blue hair smiled and said, you are really here. Xiaozai nodded and said, yes. Is the Admiral here? Is he really back? Came back. Leipzig said from the side, he's out again. Enterprising, and Jade's hearts trembled. Where is the Admiral? Go somewhere quite far away. I bought them a ferry ticket to St. Sloven. That's it, then this will be our garrison. Yes. It doesn't look as good as the previous town hall. Leipzig said, there is no way. Although the money for the town government is enough, it is still not possible to carry out large-scale construction, especially the lack of resources. Jade said, my gold nugget box has been dismantled a long time ago. Gold nugget box, this word suddenly attracted Leipzig. Is the person next to me Edinburgh? The gold nugget box is only available in Edinburgh, where the guy who likes to wear a big bearskin hat has a gold nugget box. I guess not. I just introduced it to be an emerald. Emeralds, gold nugget boxes, thinking about it, Leipzig woke up in an instant. Leipzig said, I remembered, Jade, you are Jade. And you are Enterprise. Enterprise, you don't have a gold nugget box. Only Jade has a gold nugget box. I remember that the gold nugget box is worth a lot of resources. What did I think of you? It's time to return to the town hall, and I think of you. Finally remembering who it was, Leipzig was a little excited and started talking all of a sudden. Why are you back? How did you find this place? Did you hear that our garrison launched a killing spree on the deep-sea flagship? Richelieu came back a long time ago. It's really strange that you only came back now. Jade listened to Leipzig's talk and thought to herself, it was obvious that they had just introduced it, but now they really think about it. It was just perfunctory. Leipzig continued, I missed you and Edinburgh, and almost got sidetracked. I remember you both had gold nugget boxes. Jade almost cried. Yes, I am Jade, the unlucky guy who had the gold nugget box pulled down by the Admiral just after arriving at the town hall. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 444. It was an August day, the sun was shining, the wind was blowing, and the sea was sparkling. Several people sailed on the sea, leaving behind several white waves. Still a little worried, the light cruiser said aggressively, is the Admiral really back? Came back. Jade put her hands behind her back, bent slightly and said, really? Really, I still have the Admiral's photo. If you want to see it after I get back, I can show it to you. Then let's go back and take a look. Well, we started to see an aircraft carrier at the dock. She had short blonde hair. I didn't recognize it. Jinjin remembered that the two of them were originally planning to enter the Larry mansion at once, but when they saw an unknown ship girl at the pier, they suddenly lost their courage and began to wonder if it was everyone's Larry mansion. Do it all at once, second time tired, third time exhausted. They started wandering outside the town hall and were discovered. Leipzig said, "That's York City. She is the Admiral's newly built ship girl. She likes to fly carrier-based aircraft at the dock the most." "Is that so? Speaking of which, why don't we rebuild the townhouse at its original location?" Leipzig immediately spread his hands and said, "No money, and as a warehouse manager, although she does not care about the finances, which are handled by Lexington, she still knows the income and expenditure of the townhouse. The current Larry mansion is only renovated and reconstructed based on the original Larry mansion. The original garrison has been turned into ruins. If you want to rebuild it, you will need to build dormitory buildings, office buildings, teaching buildings, warehouses, lighthouses, docks and many other buildings. That will cost too much money. When we were in Chuangziu, there were already a lot of people there, and we didn't know where to live without the garrison. After all, it's not always good to rent a house because it's inconvenient to decorate. Besides, as long as there is an admiral, it is the garrison, and as long as there is an admiral, it is the port area. There is really no need to insist on where." Leipzig told what happened, nodded aggressively, and then said, "Who are there in the garrison now?" "There is Lexington, she is the secretary ship. There are also Saratoga, Bismarck, Helena, there are many of them anyway. Your eldest sister, the Prince of Wales, is also back. Where's Hood? Although the Prince of Wales is the eldest sister, he seems a bit more fierce to British ships. Stuffed Cat Hood is obviously more approachable. Anyway, as long as you don't talk about the whereabouts of the two cats Ginger and Fish Cake in front of her, she will be very gentle and ask you if you want black tea." "Not here, I don't know where she is," Leipzig said. "What about the reputation of the head maid?" "The reputation of the head maid is also extremely popular. As long as she is around, she can make people feel at ease no matter what. Regardless of fighting, reputation is the god of war. Or life, as a maid, there is nothing that reputation is not good at. The Prince of Wales is inferior to the other two." Leipzig turned around and said, "Don't you know? Hood and reputation are together, and it is said that they opened a big company. It's a pity that they haven't come back now, otherwise I would be able to realize my ideal. Speaking of which, I have always done it. I don't understand one thing. Our eldest sister is Bismarck. Who is your boss? The Prince of Wales or the Hood?" Jade thought for a while and said, "The Prince of Wales is the eldest sister. Hood is the spiritual leader, just like the Queen, but besides the Queen, there are prime ministers, and there are many more. Reputation is the maid, she has always been. She only makes suggestions but does not make decisions. If she makes a decision, no one would dare to despise her opinion. And where's the lion? And where's Nelson and Rodney?" Jade was immediately asked, and she said, "I'm not sure." Then she said proudly, "Our Imperial fleet is full of talents, and everyone fulfills their responsibilities." Leipzig thought to herself that she just couldn't stand the proud look of your British ships, and she said, "The sun never sets on the Empire. This is no longer the old world, and even in the old world, the so-called sun never sets on the Empire." However, after thinking about it, Jade wanted to say, "Our empire on which the sun never sets has been glorious after all. What the hell is your Third Reich?" But considering that everyone is a ship girl, discussing the past is completely meaningless and useless. Jade did not continue to refute. She bit her lip and said, "I just felt like someone was following us. Submarines, they like to drag people's feet. After saying this, Leipzig patted his head with a regretful expression. The submarine's speed was relatively slow, and he and Xiaozai were faster, so they came over first. Everyone met, exchanged a few words and started sailing to the garrison. I am afraid that several U-47 submarines are still on the way, and I actually forgot about them. Leipzig quickly waved to Xiaozai, who had been following him silently, and said, Xiaozai, I will take you Jinjin and Sister Jade back first. You go find U-47 and the others, and then tell Sixby and the others that it's okay. Don't worry. You have buried amethyst quartz in the sand. Remember to dig her out later. Don't just bury her and ignore her like last time, otherwise you will wait for the Admiral to come back and spank you. Xiaozai responded, and she turned around again and sailed in the direction she came from. Jinjin and Jade were a little worried and asked, why should amethyst be buried? Leipzig said, amethyst is the second best. Anyway, it's their children's game, just play casually. Well, as long as they don't team up to bully British ships. Leipzig returned to the garrison with Enterprise and Jade, and first went to the office to meet Lexington. Lexington was smiling as usual, but Saratoga, who was usually cold, was happy. Of course they didn't find it, Saratoga was happy. 2 more people came back from the town guard mansion. If everyone came back proactively like this, then his brother-in-law wouldn't have to go out anymore. It would be best if everyone came back like this. After meeting Lexington, Leipzig continued to find the Prince of Wales with Enterprise and Jade. To be honest, Leipzig was still more afraid of the Prince of Wales, but unfortunately he was stopped and had no choice. Enterprise, Emerald. The Prince of Wales was able to recognize Enterprise and Emerald at a glance, and she was very happy that the 2 British ships were back. Think about it, even though Bazai is not very useful beside Bismarck, Prince Eugen, Admiral Hipper and Blucher are still very good helpers. This is Xiaozai's being who can be said to be a big killer. Think about yourself again, only counterattack can help, Kent even needs extra care, and the rest are destroyers. There is no way, there is no General Liao Hua in Shu to be the vanguard. Just come back. The Prince of Wales rarely showed a smile, which actually made Jinjin and Jade a little uneasy. Leipzig took the 2 to find the Prince of Wales, and she left. As for the rest of the things, such as arranging accommodation, those things have always been counterattacks, so I won't join in the fun. Jinjin and Jade came back and held a banquet as usual in the evening. They ate and drank so much that the evening was soon over. Leipzig was lying in her room, looking through various books, but none of them were interesting. She was about to sleep, when suddenly there was a knock on the door. In the summer, the windows and doors are open, all for ventilation and coolness. When Leipzig looked back, he saw emeralds and progress. Why are you here? Which one, Leipzig? We want to see the Admiral's photo. We almost forgot about the Admiral's appearance. For a ship girl, the Admiral is of course the most important person, and for this reason she would rather go to a German ship. Leipzig originally thought they were just talking casually, but now they actually came to her door, and there was nothing she could do. In fact, she doesn't have a good impression of British ships, but it's just because of the ship girl who is also in the garrison. Come in, just take a look. Leipzig said, her bare feet stepping on the wooden floor. Her room is relatively simple, with ordinary incandescent lights and only desks, bookcases, beds, wardrobes, and other ordinary furniture. She walked to the counter and took out an iron box from the bottom drawer. Then she put the iron box on the bed and opened it. It was all filled with photos. Enterprising and Jade sat on the edge of the bed, and they picked up the photo. In the photo, his Admiral is wearing a conical hat and his face is smeared with cream. After all, Sugu has lived here for such a long time, so of course it was his birthday. Then he picked up another photo. In the photo, The admiral was holding Xiao Zai and resting his chin on Xiao Zai's head. The two of them were smiling happily. In addition to these, there are many photos. Saratoga was acting weird, making one hand into a scissor hand and placing it on the back of the admiral's head, opening her mouth as if she was shouting eggplant. In the photo of the counterattack, she smiles like a little girl. Lexington is gentle and generous. Akage was eating cake while taking pictures. Leipzig and the admiral were leaning against each other, looking a little reluctant, but a smile could still be seen on the corners of their mouths. This photo was not taken well. There are photos of everyone, as well as a group photo. Lying on the bed, Leipzig said, "I told you a long time ago that the admiral is back. As you know, there were no photos of the admiral in the past. Look at these photos. If the admiral hadn't come back, how could they have been taken? Don't say that we have found someone who is similar to the admiral. That would be disrespectful." In response, she suddenly picked up a photo, with a surprised expression on her face, and said, "What is this?" The admiral is resting his head on Lexington's chest, as if it was taken secretly. The aggressive words made Leipzig suddenly wake up. Among the photos he collected, there were many taboo photos that could not be seen by others. Wait, don't mess around." Leipzig turned around and got up, but then it was too late. Jinjin and Jade had already seen those photos. There weren't many of them, but there were quite a few. Obviously, they were all taken secretly. In the photo, his admiral is holding hands with Bismarck. In the photo, the admiral himself is sleeping on the Prince of Wales' lap pillow. Apart from these, there are many, many more. It's all kissing and hugging. There were Bismarcks, there were Prince of Wales's, there were counterattacks, there were Lexingtons, there were many. Jingjin and Jade looked at these photos. Leipzig actually took these photos secretly. They were going to be killed. Leipzig had already seen Jijin and Jade looking at her in horror. Seeing that there was no way to stop them, she was a little discouraged. Then she sneered at the two people and said, "Bizai gave me a camera before, and I used that camera to take these photos. It took me more than half a year, and no one knows. Haha, you see, just watch it, and never tell anyone, otherwise neither you nor me will end well." Jade picked up another photo. In the photo, his admiral had put his hand on Helena's chest, and Helena looked shy. She was fascinated and said, "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone." Leipzig nodded. "Secret? Our secret? Any more?" "Yes, there are a few more, but those few you have seen." Jade held Leipzig's hand with a pleading expression. "We have already reached the point of no return. If we want to go back, there is no way to turn back. We might as well break the jar and throw it away. It doesn't matter, we are grasshoppers on the same rope." For the first time, the German ship and the British ship had a secret and became good friends with this secret. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 445. The sun has been shining brightly for many days, and it is now mid to late August. The curtains swayed in the sea breeze and sunlight poured into the room. Saratoga got up from the bed and sat down without difficulty. Then she looked up at the blue sky outside the window, stretched out her hand to grab her messy hair, felt tears streaking at the corners of her eyes, and stretched out her hand to rub her eyes. Lexington had already gotten up and was dressing up. She was not as careless about her appearance as Saratoga. Even though she has an exquisite appearance and is a wife, she still likes to wear simple light makeup. She stroked her lips in the mirror and suddenly noticed that her sister had gotten up. Looking back, she saw the floor fan placed next to the bed shaking its head constantly. Saratoga looked listless, and the thin blanket slid off her body without noticing it at all. "Gaga, what's wrong with you?" Saratoga turned her head and looked at her sister. She was the first one to put on a wedding dress and ring in the garrison, but now she is the wife, principal and secretary. She lowered her head, ignoring the warm smile on her sister's face. There were some things she just didn't want to tell her. Nothing happened. You seem to have tears in your eyes. I had a dream at night. Lexington looked confused. She had had many dreams, but she had never been like this. She said, "What dream?" Saratoga shook her head. "It's just a dream." Since his sister was unwilling to talk, Lexington thoughtfully did not continue to ask. She turned back to the dressing table, reached out and pushed her long flaxen hair to one side, and combed it with a comb, thinking that she wanted to tie her long hair up today. Saratoga felt uncomfortable, still feeling the same as before. Her brother-in-law must have betrayed her. This kind of thing is said to be a sixth sense, and it can probably be regarded as one. The two of them were so far apart that they suddenly felt heart-wrenching. In fact, it doesn't matter if you don't have a sixth sense. You can actually detect anything that happened in the past. Especially this time when they went out, they were accompanied by the romantic Richelieu and the vixen Akagya, so Guam could be ignored. They had been together for so long, it would be strange if nothing happened. In the end, Saratoga did not go to her sister to tell her story. After thinking about it, she decided to go to her good friend, who was also her sister-in-law, Bizai. He likes to sleep in bed and read comics. Apart from these things, he doesn't have much interest. He is a person who will not become his opponent at all. After simply dressing up, Saratoga found the room in the North House. Bismarck got up early and went to exercise. Zai did not sleep with her meow sister, and she could not see her big sleeping posture. In the room, Zai had already woken up, lying on the bed reading comics. When I woke up, I didn't bother to put on any clothes, although I wasn't completely naked. Saratoga sat by the bed and said, "Bizai, let me tell you, I had a dream yesterday." Bizai said, "I also had a dream. I dreamed that I turned into a little girl like Xiaozai. I wore a big cloak, a crown, and a big fork in my hand. By the way, I also grew cattail." Saratoga was completely uninterested in Bizai's dream. She curled her lips and said, "Your dream is so boring." Bizai looked serious and said, "It's not boring. The admiral turned into a salted fish and was stuck on a fork. It was very interesting." "I didn't come here today to listen to your boring dreams," Saratoga said. "Don't interrupt me all the time. Just listen to me." "Oh." Bizai obeyed and said nothing. She has a good personality and has always been lovable, except for being lazy and a homebody. The two were best friends and talked about everything. Saratoga leaned into Bizai's ear and whispered. Bizai had originally put down the comic, but now she picked it up again. She said, "What did I think? This kind of thing doesn't matter at all." "It doesn't matter, you actually said it doesn't matter." Bizai nodded heavily and said, "It doesn't matter. I remember one time I was lying in the Admiral's arms reading comics. He kept stroking my hair and kept saying, 'Bizai, you are my wedding ship, right? Bizai, you're so cute.' I knew what he wanted to do, so I said, 'You can touch me if you want, kiss me if you want, you can do whatever you want, just don't disturb me while I read comics.' Then I felt he seemed to be discouraged." Bizai lay on the bed with an indifferent tone. Saratoga thought to herself, "Your attitude is really invincible. You are so casual." Bizai said matter-of-factly, "What does it mean to be so casual? I am a wedding ship. It doesn't matter what the admiral wants to do to me. In fact, I am still very traditional. If I meet someone who strikes up a conversation outside, I won't care. Reason: I don't talk to men other than the admiral. I'm a good wife, and it's super troublesome to talk. I'm not saying this casually." Bizai was confused and Saratoga was helpless. After thinking for a while, she said, "My sixth sense is very accurate. I feel uneasy. Do you think the admiral has given another ring to someone else? What should we do if another ring is given to someone? Here, Saratoga thought, was Akagi and Richelieu, and soon South Dakota, Washington, and North Carolina. Fatty Nan, I wonder if my brother-in-law has listened to what everyone said, otherwise he will give Fatty Nan an opportunity if he is not careful. Bizai, think about it, we have many opponents, including Washington, there are. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter this, it doesn't matter that. How do you say that? When he married Helena, it didn't matter to you. When he married Akagi, you didn't care. When he marries everyone, you don't care if you want to. It won't work. You will become invisible to everyone, and no one can find you even if they look at the cards. Ah, my brother-in-law is not loyal at all, and he doesn't know how to be single-minded. Bazai actually saw it very clearly. She said, if he is single-minded, you won't get the ring. Saratoga retorted, then you can't even get the ring. If you can't get it, you won't get it. Well, I got to the townhouse before you. Then you are slower than my sister. Saratoga said happily, actually, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter whether I make a wedding ship or not. As long as my sister makes a wedding ship, that's more exciting. As she said this, she smiled and felt that her worries disappeared a lot. The daily routine continued, and gradually, August passed. The return of Enterprise and Jade did not bring any changes to the town hall, except that there were 2 more people who needed to say hello. The only thing that makes people feel strange is that they are obviously British ships, but the Enterprising and Emerald seem to have a good relationship with Leipzig. They actually followed Leipzig, learning to play with the camera, learning to shoot, and recently purchased a lot of film. In early September, Alaska, who had returned to the garrison earlier, converted a room into a KTV. The KTV looked good, so we built a bar next to it, and now it looks like a bar. After 2 days of this, Atlanta found it very interesting, so she submitted an application to find a room to convert into a coffee shop, where everyone could drink tea, read books, and chat. Lexington approved this application quickly, and the budget was good. Atlanta had opened a bakery before, but now it was a coffee shop, so she was very experienced. You can do all kinds of things yourself, whether it's decoration or purchasing. We need to buy a counter first. In addition to the counter, I also need to buy potted plants, pothos, tiger orchid, asparagus. Well, I think it looks good to have the walls covered with roses. As for the waiters, we sisters. The raiders must come too, and Princeton the rabbit. We also need uniforms, special uniforms, which must be dignified and seductive. San Juan was unable to complain, so she said, dignity and temptation don't go together at all. Then how about a dignified upper body and a seductive upper body? Sister, you are too unreliable. I have no interest in playing with you. Atlanta showed her little fangs and said, I have read what you wrote. If you don't come, I will tell the admiral. How could you do this and just look through other people's diaries? You forgot to put it away. I didn't know what it was, and then I read it. Don't worry, it's not your diary. It seems to be an essay, about a young girl's bitter love. I never thought about what kind of story we would start with. I already knew it from the moment we met. I remember the way you looked when I first saw you. The weather was 100% good, the townhouse is very small. I walked by unintentionally, I thought I would burst into tears. San Juan lowered his head and said, you can do whatever you want. Go and call the queen over. We are going to make uniforms and ask her to help us sew our clothes. By the way, I remembered that the waiter has to call Cushing over. There are also Lafayette, Fantasy, Zai, etc. They can guest waiters from time to time. Atlanta talked the most enthusiastically, she just thought it was interesting. In short, During Sugu's absence, the garrison was under construction in full swing. After spending many days, the small coffee shop was finally decorated. The decoration is not very good, the walls are not decorated, just ordinary white walls. In addition to the large bar, there are many small round tables in the room. Next to the small round tables, there are wicker chairs and sofas, all in a random style. Atlanta looked at it, not dissatisfied, and thought, it doesn't matter if the decoration is not good, as long as there are beautiful girls. Over many days, the queens also sewed several sets of uniforms. On this day, they came to Kent to try on the clothes. They didn't dare to go to Bismarck or the Prince of Wales. Saratoga was not that easy to talk to in front of other people except for being well-behaved, sensible, naughty, and cute in front of a few people. Only Kent is easier to deal with. Anyway, just give him a little help. He is an easy person to deal with. The four cat ear level sisters, the rabbit level raiders, Princeton, and Queen, anyway, there were a lot of onlookers sitting in the coffee shop, and they all looked at the coquettish Kent. This bunny girl costume is good, but the bunny ears should be longer. There are several kinds of bunny ears, one with two ears standing up, one with both ears drooping down, and the last kind with both ears up and down. Also, rabbit the tail should be rounder, fluffy, and feel tactile. The cheongsam looks good as a uniform, but the slits need to be higher, reaching the top of the thighs. Alas, the cheongsam is very good, but it just depends on your figure. Kent is too short, and Richelieu would look good in it. She has the tallest figure, but it's a pity that she's not here. Bizai can call her over, but she's too fat and her temperament doesn't match her. You can go to Lexington, Bismarck, and the Prince of Wales. Forget it, by the way, if you really can't do it, you can find a way to fight back. I suddenly remembered that these uniforms are worn by us, so what's the use of them looking good in them? Next. Maid uniform is always the most classic uniform. Look, it looks great when worn. This maid uniform is very good, with a black and white plaid apron, the skirt goes to the calf, and is paired with round toe shoes. It suddenly occurred to me that the headdress is not you must have a lace headband, you can use a cat ear headband or a rabbit ear headband. Wait, I discovered again, Kent, you must unbutton one button on your chest, that is the cutest way. People around were commenting, and Kent, who was wearing a maid uniform, showed a pitiful expression and said, "Is it okay?" Atlanta was still very considerate, she said, "Half-time, wait and continue." Wearing a maid outfit, Kent ran to the playground out of breath. She had been forced to wear a gothic dress, a nurse outfit, a bunny girl outfit all morning. When she finally put on the maid outfit, she finally couldn't bear it anymore and was so ashamed. Kent walked across the playground and finally sat on a bench by the flower garden, holding his shoulders with his hands, thinking, "I am so tired, the big tiger misses you so much. If you don't like it, just tell them directly." Kent turned around and saw Exeter sitting down next to her. She waved her hand and said, "It's okay, I just feel a little hot." You will never refuse. If you are not in the town hall, you will easily get hurt if you wander outside. Kent thought about the past, his friend Effie, wondering what she was doing, and his former bad boss. Kent said, "If I encounter bad people outside, I will be very courageous." You. Exeter touched Kent's hair, and the two heavy cruisers just sat outside. The two were sitting and talking when Exeter suddenly said, "Kent, do you want a drink?" "No." Exeter said to himself, "Then a glass of orange juice." Kent said, "The mango juice is ready." Exeter left and Kent sat alone. Kent kicked his legs out of boredom and suddenly saw York City walking from a distance. She was holding a small bag of something like biscuits in one hand, and she seemed to be leading someone. There was another person behind her, carrying a big backpack, holding a letter, and looking around as he walked. The girl has a cute face and fluffy brown hair. As they got closer, Kent's eyes grew wider. Yorktown said, "Kent, do you know this guy?" Before Kent could speak, the brown-haired girl had already spoken. "Cousin. Why are you dressed like this on such a hot day?" "I came back immediately after seeing the letter. It turns out you are back too. Looking for the lost ship girl." Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 446. London is wearing a white skirt. If she wasn't carrying a big backpack, she could be said to be slim. Kent looked at London and listened to London calling him cousin. If we talk about the history of the old world, the London-class heavy cruiser can be regarded as a subsequent improvement of the Kent-class heavy cruiser. They're not the same model, so they're not really sisters. It doesn't matter if they're called cousins. London said, "In order to become an outstanding lady, cooking skills are essential. Before I separated from the Prince of Wales, I traveled around the world to practice my cooking skills. I finally returned from my studies and no one saw me when I returned to the garrison. I only saw a letter. Only then did I know that the Admiral was back, so I hurried back. Kent is not good at words, and she has a weak character. Just come back. London is actually just as weak, but she just came back a little bit excited. Why are you sitting here? And why are you wearing a maid outfit? Isn't it hot?" London looked at Kent wearing a maid outfit, let alone what he was doing wearing such thick clothes on a hot day. Kent is not a maid either. Not to be disparaging, but Kent's character is absolutely incapable of being a maid, and London is still very clear about that. Then Kent told what happened to him, and London over there became happy with a big backpack on his back. After Kent finished telling what happened, London said, "The coffee shop, I can help. Everyone happens to be there, take me there, I have gifts for them." Kent said, "I'm still waiting for Exeter." York City stood next to her, and she said thoughtfully, "You guys go ahead, I'll just wait here for Exeter." Although York City is big-hearted and brainless, it still understands these things. London took Kent's hand and said, "Let's go." "Well, thank you for that." On the other side, everyone was waiting for Kent in the coffee shop. After all, it was just intermission. After getting a little impatient with the wait, Atlanta was about to call someone. Before she could go out, she saw Kent coming back, followed by someone. Although the Queen is a destroyer, she is a girl and her posture is elegant. She had left London with the Prince of Wales, and now she recognized him instantly. London. With new companions returning, Kent is suddenly forgotten. "London, when did you come back? Where did you go?" "Just came back." London said, "What do you think?" She told her experience, and as she said so, she took off her big backpack and put it on the table. "I'm back from studying art, come on, I brought you gifts." "A gift?" Javelin took the lead and walked over with her hands behind her back. She didn't see any small handicrafts or jewelry, and her heart suddenly skipped a beat. By the time London took out everything in his backpack, which contained all kinds of biscuits, Javelin was already a little flustered. Atlanta looked over and saw those little biscuits. The biscuits looked a bit weird and colorful. She used to run a bakery and was good at all kinds of cakes, toast, donuts, gingerbread, and many more. She was good at most of them, and of course she could make cookies. She looked at the small biscuits packed in small bags on the table. Even though she always said, "It doesn't matter whether the bread is delicious or not, as long as there is a beautiful girl, that's enough." When she saw these biscuits, she thought to herself, "These biscuits are really hard to handle. Take action." But just because it looks ugly, it doesn't mean it tastes bad. Atlanta thought to herself as she picked up a package of cookies. Before it was opened, she looked around and saw that the atmosphere was a little weird and no one was talking. Especially Javelin, who was originally excited, had spent a lot of time with London. Looking at the cookies on the table, they fell into silence for a while, and the atmosphere of laughter became silent. If Sugu were here, he would probably have turned around and left when he saw London. London cooking, speaking of which, there are some differences between reality and games, but the difference is not big, and many things are inseparable. London has a costume change called British food in the game, and the vertical illustration shows London cooking. It just so happens that the food cooked in London exudes a faint and strange light, and the special effect of London's attack is a large mosaic of artillery shells, so it is self-evident what it is. Anyway, I'm afraid just one taste is enough to make someone's SAN value plummet. The Queen and Javelin were most familiar with London, and they hesitated to move forward. London looked at everyone and said, "Stop looking at people with the old eyes. I am a brand new me now. I left the town for so long and it was not in vain. Exeter had come over a long time ago. She originally returned to the bench and couldn't see Kent, but then she learned what happened from York City. At this time, she listened and thought to herself, even her counter-attack skills have made great progress now. She will be treated with admiration when she leaves for 3 days, and she will be treated equally when she comes to London." No one was in a hurry to stop him. Exeter had already opened a pack of biscuits and took a bite. Boom. London asked, "How is it?" "It tastes good." Exeter pursed her lips and looked at everyone, who avoided her gaze, and then she saw London's expectant eyes. She used to work in a church, and the nature of her job was to comfort and educate people. There were tears in her eyes as she said, with a small piece of biscuit, "I tasted the ups and downs, the bitterness, and the various aspects of life. The taste is very special." Everyone was still frightened, but London was confident in her cooking skills. She said, "I have traveled all over the country." Exeter said, "Then you have become a disciple of the great chef." London said matter-of-factly, "Of course not. I just ate food from all over the world, and then absorbed the essence and advantages of these food into my cooking skills. After a long illness, the more I eat, the better my cooking skills will be. It's getting better." Exeter was grinding his teeth in a rare unladylike manner, thinking, after all, you are just traveling around and eating everywhere, and you are not practicing cooking at all. Besides, eating more means that you are a gourmet at most, but it does not mean that you are a chef. Among the group of people, Javelin's reaction was actually quite quick. She knew it when she saw Exeter's expression. She said, "London, you are back. I want to tell the prince about this matter. She has been talking about it before. Look at you, how long have you been out and haven't come back? Everyone is worried to death. It's the best that you're back. I want to tell the good news to the prince and sister. Let's go first, bye." The queen reacted because she was pulled by her sister. She held the clothes that Kent had changed out of and said, "Then I will change the clothes. There are still many shortcomings." Princeton carried Cushing and left. The attackers sneaked away. Many people were gone. In the blink of an eye, most of the people in the room were gone. Although everyone in London took away a small pack of biscuits with expectant eyes, it was unclear whether they would eat it or not. San Juan felt a little uneasy, wondering if it would be sad if everyone left like this. She said hypocritically, "We have an agreement in the garrison. As long as anyone comes back, we will prepare a sumptuous dinner for her. Now this little bit just in time, I'm going out to do some shopping. Is there anything you like to eat in London? Just tell me and I'll buy it for you." "Wait." San Juan looked panicked. London said, "For dinner, please let me help. There is no reason to ask guests to help. Doesn't this make us rude? What kind of guests are we? We are all one family." Not knowing what to say for a moment, San Juan hesitated and left, thinking that he might as well find Lexington later. Most of the people had left, but Kent still hadn't changed out of his maid uniform. She finally no longer had to be tortured, but she only found London staring at her. She was just weak, not stupid. She was holding a small biscuit in her hand and was quite panicked. Her expression always looked aggrieved, and now she looked even more aggrieved. Everyone left one after another, some to find the Prince of Wales, and some to find Lexington. Atlanta ran down the hallway and she saw York City holding a bag of cookies. "Those cookies of yours. This, let's call it London, do you want some of the cookies London gave me?" It was a gift from London to thank him for leading the way. Although York City was not a big eater like Akagi, she never minded eating something, and she was not polite. Atlanta waved his hand and said, "No, no, no. Your expression is very strange. What's wrong? Although it doesn't look good, it shouldn't be too bad." York City has no experience of living with London, and little is said about its past. If Bumblebee was around, it would probably remind her that Bumblebee had abandoned her, and that Bumblebee was always with Northampton now. Atlanta was obviously quite unscrupulous. She shook her head and said, "No wonder, I have some too. You can eat yours slowly." York City shrugged. She opened the small bag of cookies and reached out. In the next few days, she did not go to the dock to fly the carrier-based aircraft. That was a story for another day. The return of Jinjin and Jade did not bring any changes to the town hall, but the return of London made the townhouse feel a little confused. Only Cushing and Yorktown, who didn't understand the situation, seemed a little calm. In the office, Lexington rarely showed a solemn expression. If you want to cook in London, skip it. But when someone comes back from hard work and studies, and you say your cooking skills are terrible to dismiss them, it's like bullying them, and you must have countermeasures. This afternoon, counterattack took London everywhere to introduce the townhouse. Our townhouse was renovated on the basis of the original townhouse. It turns out that the admiral of this townhouse is an African. Let me take you to see the wishing wall. The admiral gets happy every time he sees it. I remember when I first came here, Exeter, Amethyst, and I walked into the wrong townhouse and actually went to someone else's townhouse. The admiral of that townhouse was also an African, and there was only one. The ship girl is the Kaohsiung, which is now his wedding ship. London, did you make a mistake when you came over? This is the warehouse. This is the food warehouse, and there are all kinds of daily necessities here. The manager of the warehouse is Leipzig. She is a sharp-tongued person, so don't mind it too much. Anyway, if you want anything, just ask her. Speaking of which, let's go get some daily necessities later. Look at the dormitory building. Which floor do you want to live on? Biscuits, I'm at work now, so it's not convenient to eat them, and I've just eaten a lot. The counterattack continued with the introduction, wanting to postpone it until dinner time, but this idea was obviously a bit difficult. London looked at the sky, and she said, "It's too late now, let me show off my cooking skills." I remember that you can't counterattack your cooking skills. Follow me, I can teach you. Then you can talk to me while you are next to me. Tell me interesting things about the town hall. Do you think the admiral's character has changed now? What has he become? There was no stopping him. London had to go to the kitchen. As the evening progresses, the dining table forms one long table. Prince Eugen, who was in charge of the kitchen, sat next to his sister. Her face was pale, and her SAN value had obviously dropped significantly. Star anise is a spice, but she actually chopped it up and sprinkled it in like salt. I told her and she said I didn't understand it at all. The fish actually didn't open the stomach and take out the internal organs. She said it was so authentic and authentic. She was very confident. I can't say anything else. I thought what the admiral said before was all a joke, but it turned out to be true. London really put salted fish in potato pies. The good thing is that she actually knows that sprouted potatoes are poisonous. Prince Eugen was restless, and London, wearing a chef's hat, served a plate of stargazing to the Prince of Wales. Sister-in-law. The Prince of Wales smiled and said, London, I understand your thoughts. Well, in the townhouse now, Lexington is the secretaryship, you should give it to her first. London listened and thought it made sense. She walked towards Lexington and said, Lexington, try it. British food looks up to the stars, my favorite work. Lexington looked at the Prince of Wales and thought, don't let the Admiral go to your room again. However, the weak London rarely produces its own works, and Lexington is really sad. She glanced at the confident smile on London's face, and clenched the knife and fork in her hand tightly to buy some time. She lifted up a piece of loose long hair and tucked it behind her ears, but still didn't do anything, stalling for some more time. Finally she pursed her lips, inspired by the words of the Prince of Wales just now. Lexington smiled, and amid everyone's expectant expressions, she put down the knife and fork in her hand. I have always had a doubt. You came back from studying in London. For such an important thing, why didn't you leave your first cooking to the Admiral? Obviously the Admiral is the most important person to you. Like an ordinary family, the child earns the third a salary will be used to buy gifts for parents. As a ship girl, the first time should be given to the Admiral. The first kiss, the first hug, the first night, no, not just the first time, all of these things should belong to the Admiral. Lexington put the knife and fork on the table and looked at London's blushing expression. She said, I won't eat this. I hope that the first time you cook when you return from learning will be left to the Admiral so that the Admiral can praise you. London held the look up at the starry sky, her toes groped the ground uneasily, and she said, then these. We've eaten your heart out, Lexington said. After Lexington finished speaking, the people around him showed surprised expressions, so, applause for Lexington. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 447. Warm yellow light shines down. In the cafeteria, the destroyers were running around the long table, and they couldn't stop. Fletcher followed his sister around like a nanny. Hold it in your hand for fear of falling, hold it in your mouth for fear of melting. Helena, who had her long blue hair tied up, was the person responsible for managing the destroyer in the town hall. However, she never worried like Fletcher. She just called their names with a cold voice when the destroyers were arguing or planning to cause trouble, and she could immediately make them behave. Akaga was not in the Toot-Larry mansion, so the sumptuous dinner and the various foods on the long table were consumed slowly. No one touched London's Looking at the Stars, which was put away by the counter-attack and carried into the kitchen, which was reassuring. The Prince of Wales had something simple to eat. She was a being who could survive as long as she had red wine. For this reason, Leipzig, who is responsible for warehouse management, is quite heartbroken. She always says that she spends a lot of money on wine every month. In fact, the Prince of Wales doesn't pay much attention to the red wine he drinks. It doesn't have to be expensive red wine. It can be cheap or expensive. It basically doesn't cost much. Shaking a glass of red wine, the Prince of Wales sat next to London. London was still chatting with people, and she was especially unconscious. She was talking to San Juan, the raiders, and others about how to cook the best and most delicious food. Whether to put oil or meat first when cooking, hot oil or cold oil, in short, she has a set of principles. Then she suddenly saw the Prince of Wales, and she called out, "Prince." Several people around saw the Prince of Wales coming, so they walked away. They had long been tired of London's ridiculous words, and finally had a chance to leave. The Prince of Wales took a sip of red wine and asked, "London, have you seen Lin Sien?" Both the heavy cruiser London and the light cruiser Lincien left the garrison. London was back, but Lincien was still missing. London knew that he went to look for food. Although it seems to have no effect now, it has greatly increased the lethality. Lincien really doesn't know where he went. London scratched her hair and said, "I travel everywhere by myself. I am on a different road from her. I can't meet her anywhere." I had already guessed the result, but I was a little unwilling to do so. However, Lincien didn't come back and there was nothing he could do. There was no point in being anxious. The Prince of Wales thought for a while and said casually, "Is this what our original garrison is like?" London recalled her experience of returning to the town hall. She said, "When I went back, the gate of the town hall was sealed. I entered from the path on the side of the windmill and found that there was no one inside. There were no tables or chairs. All the benches in the corridor were dusty, and the shrubs in the yard were not repaired. Some small animals also entered. I saw a rabbit under the big poplar tree. I was shocked at first, thinking what was going on, and then I saw a letter in the hall. After reading it, I took the letter and hurried back. It took me a long time." After hearing this, the Prince of Wales felt something was wrong. She thought about it and said, "That letter. I'll take it with me." "Did you leave a new one?" "No." London reacted and took the letter away without leaving a new copy. When Lincien returns to the town hall, it will be difficult to find everyone's whereabouts. She suddenly had a bad look on her face. "Don't panic, it's okay." The Prince of Wales said this, thinking that Lincien was quite reliable. If she didn't see everyone in the town hall, she would definitely look for clues everywhere, and there was more than just a letter in the town hall. The admirals in the nearby garrison also know where everyone is going and can still find them. The Prince of Wales continued, "I'll leave all the counter-attacks to you regarding the room and accommodation." London ate the cake, nodded and said, "Yes." The Prince of Wales drank the red wine in one gulp and said, "It seems that nothing is going on. You can continue to eat." London wanted to continue to find San Juan to discuss cooking matters, thinking that he would go to the cafeteria to help in the future. On the other side, several people including San Juan and Prince Eugene gathered together and discussed in low voices. I saw that when London was eating cake, she kept eating cream. Didn't she think it was too sweet or too greasy? The only people in London who eat sorry are they put mustard on it. I asked her what she was doing, and she said the sorry has no taste. "You forgot to wash the plate of sea fish you made. It's very salty and no one eats it." London thinks it tastes good. San Juan and Prince Eugene looked at each other. Heavy flavor. A dull sense of taste. Taste deterioration. Loss of taste. Atlanta said from the side, "Even so, her cooking skills are still terrible. Peeling potatoes can remove 1/3 of the potatoes, and adding eggs to the pot without adding oil." The attacker showed a horrified expression. She watched the whole process of London's cooking in the cafeteria. She said, "She killed the chicken by directly cutting off the head of the chicken, and then blood spattered her face. She looked back with the knife. Me, I was almost scared to death. It was so scary. I would really have nightmares at night. I slept with York City at night." I could explain to her how to operate the carrier-based aircraft, and she would definitely agree. "What about York City?" "I haven't seen her yet." San Juan said, "York City said he was not feeling well and did not attend the dinner." Atlanta bit her lip with an expression on her face. "No way, she actually ate it. Anyway, we can't let London enter the kitchen, and we can't even attack him. It's better if I'm tired. Let's talk to Lexington." After the dinner and into the next day, Lexington called London his office. In London, San Juan and Prince Eugene are in charge of the canteen. Bismarck and the Prince of Wales analyze the battle reports, counterattack, and Fletcher are the maids, Bizai and Gaga, not to mention them. In short, everyone in the garrison has a job. You just came back, I shouldn't have asked you, but I urgently need your help, and only you can do it. London hesitated and said, but you said that I would leave my first cooking to the Admiral. Lexington said quickly, it's not that, it's not that. You see, you are a lady, well, then you look at Sci-fi, Fantasy, Law-Fight, and many others. They are mischievous all day long. They are girls. How can you be so mean? You have to teach them how to be ladies. Whether it's flower arranging, sewing, etiquette, or painting, you have to teach them. What about cooking classes? Lexington said sternly, someone is already in charge of the cooking class, speaking of which, I want to remind you. Everyone has their own work. No matter how capable you are, you can't do it all. Like me or to fight back, we could take over most of the work in the town hall, but we didn't do that. London, your cooking skills are very good, but someone is in charge of the canteen, so don't interfere easily. If you interfere, it will make people feel that you are it's not very useless. Harmony is the most important thing in the guardhouse. You have your job, she has hers, don't wander around. There is absolutely no place for canteens in London, everyone agrees. London's character is actually quite weak, and being outspoken can make people depressed for a long time. After thinking about it, I can only use this method. London left. Saratoga looked at her sister Lexington and suddenly said, Sister, do you think Akaga can eat London's food? They are the strongest spear and the strongest shield, right? Lexington was thinking, but Saratoga suddenly laughed. Lexington was confused and asked, What, you suddenly laughed? Saratoga said, I remembered my brother-in-law. He told me a story before. There was a man selling spears and shields, claiming to be a spear that could pierce through anything and a shield that could block anything. Then someone next to him said, You how about stabbing your own shield with your own spear? Then the spear seller stabbed the passerby to death with his spear and said, You are the one who talks the most nonsense. Then, this is the origin of the word contradiction. Lexington smiled and said, Then you said so much, Gaga, I'll treat you to British food. The big crisis brought about by London has finally been resolved, and she is still a good person to talk to. It has to be said that except for her cooking skills, her other abilities are consistent with her image of a lady. The level of flower arrangement is very high, even if it is just using the various wildflowers and grasses that the little girl found in the woods outside the town hall. Anyway, it's fine no matter what, as long as it doesn't involve cooking. The daily life of the Toot Larry mansion continued. In mid-September, a deep-sea ship girl appeared in the sea outside the Toot Larry mansion, and it was easily solved. Then the more difficult deep-sea battleships appeared. This time Saratoga, who had nothing to do, went out to deal with them, while York City watched the whole process. After the attack and returning to the garrison, Saratoga raised his hands in the office and said, A crushing victory. Yeah, Lexington said. Saratoga lowered his head, thinking, and said, Enterprise, Emerald, and London are back. No one has come back. It's probably because our garrison is not famous. Let's just challenge the deep-sea flagship. We will definitely encounter the deep sea when we run to the Pacific Ocean. The flagship, my brother-in-law happens to be in the Pacific. If we kill the deep-sea flagship, we will definitely make the garrison famous, and everyone will come back in an uproar. Lexington knocked Saratoga on the head and said, My self-confidence is inflated. How can a deep-sea flagship be so easy to deal with, not even us? Saratoga sat on her knees on the sofa, looking up at the calendar hanging on the wall. She drew a circle for every day that passed, and there was still half of the month that she had not drawn. My brother-in-law hasn't come back yet. It's hard to wait. At the end of September, Zeppelin, who had been helping at the Chuangzhou Naval Academy, returned to the garrison. Lexington and Saratoga saw her sitting on the guardrail of the flower garden, looking at the small house, playing with a cicada, Lafayette holding a dog and climbing a snake, and Fantasy holding a beetle. Lexington said, "Zeppelin is back." Zeppelin looked at Lexington. Her image in the town hall was no longer that of a proud and arrogant instructor. She pursed her lips and said, "Yeah, I have finally sorted out all the things in the academy. I can have a good rest for a few days." Saratoga looked at the imageless Zeppelin sitting there, and thought to himself, even though he said he was an instructor, he still didn't want to call his brother-in-law an admiral. He clearly regarded the garrison as his own home more and more, and he came back during his breaks. Lexington thought of the days when she accompanied the admiral to take the exam last year, and she said, "The college should be taking exams soon at this time." Zeppelin said, "In previous years, it was almost this time. The annual exams are not fixed at a fixed time. Anyway, it is September and October. I will go back after a few days of rest. At least I won't be able to take a good rest before the exams and interviews are completely over." Saratoga said, "What's so tiring?" Zeppelin said, "In the academy, a lot of work was left to me. During the previous period, I was asking questions, and my head was about to explode. I had to look for current affairs and political affairs in recent years, and all kinds of people in the circle of admirals and ship girls. Big thing. Those restless people who published review materials and exercises before exams in previous years are guessing questions again, and they must avoid such questions. Otherwise, the questions will be almost the same by then, and it will be a big scandal. Apart from these, setting up the examination room, etc., there are many more things." Saratoga said, "I remember last year, my brother-in-law was also doing various exercises. At that time, he was still working very hard, unlike now, running around everywhere. Haha, everyone is back, he is already a mascot." As she said this, she recalled that at that time, her brother-in-law looked at her like a stranger, but now she is a very close person. Zeppelin said, "I thought I would be able to see Akage when I came back, but I didn't expect that they haven't come back yet." Akage Vixen. Zeppelin had known about the relationship between several people, so she understood the situation and did not refute. Saratoga always talks about Vixen and Vixen, but Akage didn't say anything when he got the ring. It's not a real contradiction. Zeppelin saw Xiaozai and others running away, and she said, "Where is Bismarck? I just saw Bismarck walking through the corridor next to the warehouse." Lexington and Saratoga walked away, and Saratoga said, "Brother-in-law hasn't come back yet. He said it wouldn't take that long, so I didn't go with him." Lexington said, "Maybe we encountered an accident. They must have eloped. Let's start a big campaign to take back the brother-in-law." The time was gradually approaching October, and Lexington was wearing a long cyan dress that day, with her long hair hanging behind her back. She held the coffee in one hand and stirred it with a spoon in the other. She looked at the calendar in her room. "Aren't you back yet? You should be back. I miss you a little bit. 7 days, no, when I give you 3 more days, I will teach you a lesson if you don't come back. Eating London cuisine for 3 days. Run 30 laps around the playground." Lexington took a sip of coffee and said, "Let's do it 10 times a night so that you can't get out of bed for 3 days. My wife Lexington is so shameless. Well, I'm getting so dirty. Then if you come back today, allow your sisters to spend time together." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 448. The ocean liner has been sailing on the sea for many days. During this time, Sugu got to know the little girl named Admiral Shumeng. The other party is not very old, and he was able to become an admiral at such a young age mainly because of family connections. My parents are both admirals, so I came into contact with ship girls relatively early. Although he has a little devil-like personality, he is actually kind at heart. I just had the opportunity and built the Fengxiang, and then became the admiral. There are actually no salvage restrictions or construction restrictions. They are all admirals. Sugu, Qin Kai, and Xu Meng occasionally get together to talk and share some anecdotes, rumors, and information. On this day, Qin Kai talked about the rumors he had heard. We still don't understand the deep-sea ship girls. Some people say that the deep-sea flagship can communicate, as evidenced by the deep-sea Yamato wearing a swimsuit. Some people say that the deep-sea ship girls actually live like humans and need food, drink, and supplies. After all, there are lost supplies. Ship, a cute deep-sea young girl. I went to see my classmate this time, and I heard a rumor from him, saying that someone saw the deep-sea flagship Deep-sea Ryusei seeming to be talking to the deep-sea supply ship. Although it is just a rumor now and has not been confirmed. It is confirmed that some people are trying to communicate with the deep-sea flagship. Sugu knew the deep-sea supply ship very well, but he didn't know about the deep-sea Longxiang. He did have the Longxiang himself. Before the rumors are confirmed, they don't have much meaning. The most important thing is to salvage the ship. You asked me where the surgeon fish came from, I caught it. Fengxiang sank a deep-sea submarine and then caught it. There are some differences between reality and games. Ship girls, which are difficult to obtain in games, do not have such stringent requirements here. If you defeat a deep-sea destroyer at will, you may get a rare destroyer, such as Fantasy or Lafitte. If you defeat the deep-sea battleships at will, you may be able to get rare battleships like Bismarck and Washington, and even Missouri and Hindenburg, which Sugu is not sure about. Anyway, here it all depends on whether you are European or African. Because both of his parents were admirals, Xu Meng knew a lot. When he saw that the two were interested, he introduced some submarines a little bit. Although U-81 is very rare, U-156 is the most beloved. First of all, let's talk about her history. The reason why she sank was because of her kindness in rescuing people who fell into the water during the Laconia incident. Because of such kind deeds, U-156 was born from history and memory. She is a lowly and a young girl. She has cheeks like a cherub and a personality like an angel. I don't know how many admirals threw all their resources into salvage. Xu Meng looks like a cute little girl with a little devil-like personality, but she is actually quite dirty inside. She continued, since we are talking about submarines, there is one submarine you must like. U-96, she likes to wear twin ponytails and where the sawfish has hairpins, is greedy, and is very cute. The most important reason why you must like her is that she is a baby with lower breasts. When you pick her up, you can see her lower breasts. As she said this, she looked at the two people and deliberately warned, it's okay if you know these things. Don't talk nonsense outside. It will affect the harmony. If everyone goes to fish for submarines, then who will do the job of protecting one party? Looking at the curious looks in Sugu and Qin Kai's eyes, the little girl obviously liked being a teacher. Speaking of which, there are some things you don't know. When you wake up the ship girl, you can see the history of the battleship, and then that is the history of the ship girl you built. Some people think, how about slapping people awake when they are halfway through the construction? Then we will know what kind of ship girl can be built with these steels. If it is not good, we will not build it. In fact, that will not work. The main reason is, everything was fine originally, but something unexpected happened. Qin Kai interrupted Xu Meng and said, we actually understand these things. Just tell us about the submarine girl. Who cares about those things? Seeing the nonchalant expression, Xu Meng glanced coldly and said, no more talking, I'm going to take a nap. Xu Meng left, and Sugu complained and said, Qin Kai, even if you want to listen, please be more tactful. You are not as direct as you. If you want to bring things out quietly, what should you say? there was a classmate who always wanted to fish for submarines, and words like this were used as an introduction. You are so direct, but she is still a little girl, and it is perverted to keep discussing things about young girls with you. In cruise life, Sugu naturally wouldn't chat with the admiral all the time. What's the point? There are so many ship girls around him. Sugu has recently become obsessed with telling stories to North Carolina. In fact, it doesn't necessarily mean telling stories. Anyway, he just tells some things that North Carolina doesn't know, and tells some things that are enough to surprise North Carolina. Your sisterhood actually has a cat hidden in her chest. Veneto is not a destroyer. Fuz's bridge is an illegal construction. After saying this, you can immediately see North Carolina's OAO expression. It was a shock coming from North Carolina. Anyway, it was very interesting. In addition to telling stories to the little Lolita, it is of course necessary to gain the favor of the big sister. Oklahoma, you are very good at shooting, right? I have a pistol that Bismarck gave me as a gift. Bismarck was actually not very good at shooting, so there was no way to teach me. I have practiced it for a while, but it is difficult to aim. After saying this, Oklahoma will explain how to shoot, how to judge the wind direction, wind speed, etc., and then Sugu will be beside him. It is not necessary to give gifts to gain goodwill. It is also a good way to gain goodwill to make people feel that they are needed. Of course there will be surprises. I heard Nevada that you are called Lucky Nevada. Before Sugu finished speaking, Nevada was very excited and took his hand and walked deeper into the cruise ship. Oh, Admiral, you actually know this. I have no choice but to take you to see it. Let's go to the casino and I'll show you the killing spree. The two ran to the casino inside the cruise ship and spent the entire afternoon losing. I probably have some good feelings, but if I touch my wallet, I don't care if I don't have such good feelings. Later, Nevada suggested going to the casino, but Sugu refused. Small gambling makes you happy and big gambling hurts your health. Let's just have fun by ourselves instead of going to the casino. However, there is no gambling at all in Nevada, so everyone can play together and win out. After being taught a lesson by Washington with an axe, Sugu still didn't realize his mistake. He thought it was better to give up on Nevada. What do you like about California? Although the vertical painting in the game is not very good, in reality, California is wearing a black vest, revealing the vest line on his abdomen. Unlike Richelieu's heroic spirit, she really gives people a fatal sense of fitness and sexiness. This girl must want to gain a lot of favor. Bungee jumping, drag racing, all kinds of extreme sports are pretty much it. She seems to be a girl who likes excitement, so Sugu feels that she needs to weigh it up. When talking to Washington, most of the time he talks about business. When Admiral was Admiral, did you ever encounter anything difficult? Being an admiral is not just a harem game, but I have encountered some difficulties. Yes, I met someone before who told me that we have deep-sea ship girls there and they want to help us. Help, I can help, and then they wanted me to send ship girls to guard there. I thought about it and refused. Helping the emergency, not the poor. If there is a big crisis suddenly, I will go to help. If you want me to send a ship girl to help you guard, that won't work. Of course I know it's not easy for anyone, but some villages and factories built in dangerous seas need to be relocated. Sometimes I am not cold-blooded. After doing this kind of thing once, many people will flock to you. Those the mission is dangerous, and there is no benefit for me to help. Not that it must be beneficial, but no one can be a savior. Well, anyway, just because I refused, I was scolded as a guy who would not save anyone. I finally experienced a few times, the feeling of those rich people being kidnapped by their morals. I am about to die, and how much money you have, you are reluctant to give me a little money to save my life. Well, that feeling is indeed a bit uncomfortable, But I can't help. It's over. Cursing, pleading, etc. If you hear this too much, if you are a ship girl, you will often become disappointed with the world. If you go to help, you will easily be restrained, and it is easy for you to become a rival. Washington said, so we need the admiral to bear the pressure and accusations for us. You are the harbor of our souls. It feels good to be wanted. However, at this time, Sugu felt that he was favored by Washington. There were no accidents during the cruise. Even before boarding the ship, Sugu set a flag. With so many ship girls around him, he is not afraid even if he encounters a deep-sea flagship. After all, we didn't encounter any deep-sea flagship. I have never encountered a deep-sea flagship, but I have encountered an ordinary deep-sea ship a few times. But there is no need for everyone to take action. After all, an ocean liner like this will definitely have its own escort team. Unless you encounter a powerful deep-sea ship girl and you are in danger if you fail to track down the enemy, it is just a small fight. We didn't encounter anything dangerous on the road, which is best. The reality is not that you can load files and respawn in games where you fight monsters and upgrade. If you make a mistake in any step, you will never look back. Think about it, if you encounter danger from time to time, who would dare to sail on the sea? In fact, there are many passenger ships and cargo ships. We should not stop eating because of fear of encountering deep-sea flagships. Anyway, after many days of this, the cruise ship finally arrived in Fujian City. Then we took a passenger ship from Fujian City to the county seat of the Tutelary Mansion, and arrived at the county seat in the evening. Everyone is standing at the beach, and now there is a question. Let's sail directly there, Admiral, I'll carry you. Sugu said, actually, I was thinking that it is such a long distance and there are so many people. Everyone is a capital ship, so it consumes a lot of resources. Nevada said, that's too granddad for you. I should be able to borrow a yacht from the nearby town hall, and we can just sail there. Akaga said, you want to go show off your boat? Sugu waved his hand and said, no, I don't feel any stimulation from sunbathing now, I just feel that the influence is not good. Although I have experienced it twice before, I still feel a little embarrassed. Nevada said, otherwise, I will grab the Admiral's feet and lift you up. Do you think this is good? Sugu thought about that scene and thought it was better to forget it. Thinking about it again, asking someone to borrow a yacht is too troublesome, and you will have to pay it back later. Even though it's a small matter that doesn't involve human feelings, there's no need to bother people unless it's absolutely necessary. Then you carry me. Akagi has become much younger now and looks much petite, so it is best to leave it to the tall Richelieu. Halfway through the voyage, South Dakota jumped up and said, it's me, it's me. The sun sets very late near the Tutelary Mansion in the south. When everyone returned to the Tutelary Mansion, it was not yet dark. This is our townhouse. Nevada said, it's not big. Sugu said, the mountains are not high, if there are immortals, they will be famous. If the water is not deep, if there are dragons, they will be spiritual. Richelieu said, the garrison does not need to be big, as long as the admiral is here. Sugu thought to himself, Richelieu, your ring is indispensable. There is no need to attack like this, it will be unbearable. Walking along the long steps into the governor's mansion, Sugu immediately saw the small house. It's been such a long time, my little house, my little house. Little house. Sugu shouted, then squatted on the ground and opened his hands towards Xiaozai. Xiaozai was holding a branch to pull the ants on the trunk when he suddenly heard a familiar voice and turned around to see his favorite admiral. Okay, this is up for debate, whether I like Sister Meow or the admiral the most. Admiral. Xiaozai rushed forward, and Sugu caught him, then hugged him tightly and rubbed his face. Xiaozai was held in Sugu's arms. She lay on Sugu's back, and then saw the people following Sugu. She is very polite now and greets everyone. Sister Washington. Fat Sister South Dakota. South Dakota angrily said, "Don't call me South Dakota fat." When North Carolina saw Xiaozai, she was now a Lolita with a Lolita body and heart. She kept beating and said, "Xiaozai, Xiaozai." North Carolina. Xiaozai didn't recognize Nevada when he saw it. Although it is a battleship, Nevada is obviously not doing well in the garrison. Nevada took 2 quick steps, pinched Xiaozai's face, and said, "You don't know me." Then Utopia, Lafayette, Sixby and other destroyers appeared, and everyone was immediately surrounded. I walked slowly to the office and didn't see Lexington. The first floor was the office, and the second floor and above were the dormitories, so Xiaozai stood downstairs with his arms crossed and shouted, "Sister Lexington, the Admiral is back. Sister Lexington, the Admiral is back." A moment later, Sugu saw Lexington hurried downstairs from upstairs. In addition to Lexington, people coming downstairs also included Bismarck, Saratoga, the Prince of Wales and others. Even though there were many people around him, Lexington still did not hesitate to hug Sugu with Xiaozai. After a good hug, I let go thinking about so many people. "Admiral, I'm finally back." "Yes. I just happened to come back today." Sugu saw Lexington constantly brushing his messy hair and bangs. Sugu said, "What's wrong with you?" "It's nothing, just come back." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai Rong Yan. Chapter 449. "Hello, Admiral." "Hello." Sugu looked at Jinjin and Jade. Both girls were light cruisers. They have long red hair and short blue hair respectively. In terms of looks alone, they are very beautiful, but they still look out of place in the town hall. Sugu didn't know much about these 2 girls. After all, they couldn't be modified in the game. They also didn't have outstanding illustrations, making them hard to remember. Well, I still have some impressions due to the gold nugget box. The Admiral has been out for a long time. "Yeah, running around now. By the way, what were you doing before?" "A normal job." After saying some random words, Jinjin and Jade sat beside him for a moment, said hello, and then walked away. Sugu saw the 2 of them sitting together with Leipzig, and then looked at himself and began to whisper and point. "Look at yourself and look at Lexington. Look at yourself and look at Saratoga. Look at yourself, then look at the counterattack," showing a surprised expression, as if to say I can't tell at all. In short, it makes people confused. Sugu naturally couldn't hear what they were saying. It's completely impossible to tell that there is any secret connection between the Admiral and counterattack, but the photos don't lie. Saratoga is also his wedding ship, right? Why do they have to wait until Lexington is not around before they do something weird? Bismarck was actually pulling his collar. Bismarck obviously looked serious and rigid. He looked over, "Let's put our heads down quickly." On the other side, Sugu said, "Why are Jinjin and Jade so weird?" London has long brown hair, which gives people a fluffy look, as if they have many and thick hair. She was wearing a white shirt and plaid skirt, and she still wore black stockings in the summer, looking youthful. Sugu remembered that it was because London's transformed portrait was so cute that even though he had no hope for London's combat effectiveness, he still reached the transformation level. Now it looks really cute. London is much more sensible than Jinjin and Jade. I don't mean to say sensible, but more enthusiastic. The game gives people a feeling of weakness, but in reality, it is impossible to tell the character in real life, but compared to Kent's weak character, it is clear at a glance that everyone wants to protect him, and the small round face of London is a little bit more energetic. Of course, this kind of vitality is not as good as that of Lafayette. The little girl is wearing a vest and hot pants, which makes people feel energetic at a glance. Although they hadn't seen each other for such a long time and London was lifeless, she showed a ladylike smile. "Admiral," I rushed back as soon as I saw the letter. "Admiral, I have traveled to many places for cooking training. Cooking is not an easy skill to master, but I am already an excellent lady, so that's no problem. I want to show my cooking skills to the Admiral, please trust London." London looks just short of doing Popeye moves. After returning from studying, he wanted to keep his first cooking experience to himself. To be honest, Sugu was very touched. "I really live up to the fact that I have been on the secretaryship for such a long time, and my favorable opinion has reached 100, without any moisture." Sugu had just returned home and was completely relaxed. He didn't have time to think too much before agreeing. Suddenly, beside him, the considerate sister-in-law Saratoga ignored the sight of the surrounding people and stuck to his side, whispering, "The looking at the stars made in London is still in the kitchen. You can go and take a look at it in the evening." York City. I ate a bag of biscuits made in London and felt uncomfortable for several days. "Not that much. I've said everything I need to say, it's up to you to decide." After Saratoga finished speaking, Sugu suddenly woke up. That was London, the legendary London. In the game, her outfit changes and the food she cooks can be mosaic-ed. So if you dare to eat it, although you may not be poisoned, the taste will definitely not be good. Ship girls will not be hurt easily. What is easy to be hurt is mental damage. Therefore, it must be that the taste of those biscuits was too shocking, which made York City feel depressed and had no appetite. Fear. However, London's little round face is so cute, her fluffy seaweed-like hair is also cute, and her smile is particularly warm. Do you want to be very moved and then reject it? Isn't it a bad influence? After all, Sugu has been very experienced in how to please girls after such a long time. He was silent for a while and said, "I'm really sorry for you that I've been away for so long. Now that I'm back, London, you are so enthusiastic, which makes my conscience uneasy. Let me cook. I'll cook whatever you want. My cooking skills are not very good, so please give me some guidance." "Guidance is okay, but I am a lady and cannot let the Admiral cook." "The Admiral cannot always." Guidance in London. The attackers thought about the scene of London killing chickens, and Prince Eugen thought that London did not understand the importance of breaking open the belly of the fish and taking out the internal organs, and the two of them turned pale. Sugu didn't know that London could still be like this, but the crisis could still be easily resolved because he said so. It doesn't matter that I've been cooking for London my whole life." As soon as he finished speaking, he saw London purse her lips and smile, as if the feeling of good things was rising in her head. "Admiral, Admiral." The destroyer came over to ask for a gift, but Sugu of course clapped his hands and gave it away. There are more and more people in the governor's mansion, and it is too troublesome to choose gifts one by one. Trouble is one of the reasons. The main reason is that I rushed back in a hurry and forgot many things. Otherwise, at least bring back some souvenirs and candies. Xiao Zai stood nearby and said, "I don't want a gift, as long as the Admiral comes back." Sugu immediately felt that his heart was about to melt. He was indeed his favorite Xiao Zai. He quickly picked up Xiao Zai and put him on his lap. "My little house, mine." In fact, when I came back this time, the number of people surrounding Sugu was not the largest, but the number of people surrounding Sheikh Hung was the largest. Akage, who originally looked like a dignified and classic lady, came back from a trip and she actually looked much younger. Although it is reverse growth, it is still growth. Everyone looked at Akage, at his face and brows, and at his long black hair hanging straight down like silk. Her appearance is obviously younger, her figure has become slender, and she has become a delicious girl. However, the size of her chest has not decreased but increased, which is really too much. How did Akage grow up? It's almost the same as Princeton. Akage thought about what he had experienced with Sugu, tilted his head and said, actually, it's a little different from Princeton. Akage talked about this experience, but of course, some things are still difficult to say on the spot. Next to her, Richelieu kept stroking Kong Xiang's long, silky silver hair, and she seemed a little unhappy. There was no growth during this outing, and there was no progress in other things. Now back at the townhouse, she looked at Lexington, Bismarck, and the Prince of Wales, and felt more and more difficult for herself. Sugu didn't see Chi Bolin. She originally poured cold water on him, saying, "It's impossible for Sheik Hung to grow and your ideas are really ridiculous, so now I can slap her in the face and feel proud." Then I thought that Zeppelin would definitely ask me to report. It was really troublesome to think about it. Saratoga looked at Akage, who was like a star among the stars, and muttered, "Even if you have grown up, you are still not as good as me." Yes, my Gaga is the most powerful. Washington, North Carolina, South Dakota, Nevada, Oklahoma, Tennessee, California. The Admiral has brought back so many people this time, I'm so happy. Once everyone is found, my brother-in-law can stay with me forever. It's so touching, my sister-in-law is really helpless. By the way, what did my brother-in-law do to Akage? Well, I haven't done anything special. Anyway, it's just some responsibilities. Saratoga looked suspicious, then suddenly became happy again, and said, "Our American ship girls are going to rule the entire garrison. We have the most aircraft carriers, the most battleships, and the most battle cruisers." The excitement continued into the evening, and I was finally able to take a good bath and go to bed. "Xiaozai, please sleep with me tonight. It's been a long time since I slept with the cutest Xiaozai." Kotaku is not as gorgeously dressed as in the game, but just short-sleeved shorts, cute face, round arms, and small fists make people want to stop. No, I'm going to sleep with North Carolina. Since Xiaozai had no other choice, it was better to find Lexington in the end. He couldn't just stay in the empty house when he came back. At night, Sugu stood in the room. He had taken off his coat, revealing a figure that would have made his former self envious. There is no way, even if you want to be an otaku here, he can't just read a comic like Bazai can solve it. Besides, even in the past, he was not really an otaku. Here, because of Bismarck, I need to continue to exercise and get in better shape. Although there is basically no time to exercise this time out, it will not rebound in a short period of time. The sound of waves and the whistle of a passing ship came from outside. Sugu looked at Lexington wearing a slightly transparent silk nightgown. Her beautiful figure was looming, exuding alluring charm. But Lexington's expression looked a little nervous. "Lexington, you seem to be acting weird from the beginning to now." "Really? Nothing strange. If you don't tell me, forget it. Go to sleep." "Well, I'm still a little curious, so tell me." On the other side, Lexington pulled on the shoulder straps of his nightgown, feeling a little embarrassed. "I didn't expect that my admiral would just come back today. I just set the flag at noon, and he actually came back." "Flag, only you know the flag. In fact, others don't know it if you don't follow it. However, if possible, it is of course better to comply." But if she really did that kind of thing, Gaga might agree. Her character loves excitement the most, but her dignity as a sister would be completely lost. "Is there any way to solve this problem?" Lexington said, "Admiral, why don't you go to my room? The Bismarck and North House share a room, and the Lexington and Saratoga share a room. It's really over, that's incredible. Usually they come to their own rooms." Sugu asked doubtfully, "Why are you going to your room? Isn't Jia not here? Just say whether you want to go or not." Lexington said, thinking, if you don't agree to go, Admiral, then there is nothing I can do. Sugu said, "What's wrong with you?" Lexington didn't say anything, but then she saw Sugu staring at her, and she said, "Why do you keep looking at me?" "Just looking." Sugu looked at Lexington's expression. Did Lexington want to go alone? Still don't want to go by yourself? It seems that you don't want to go by yourself. If you don't want to go by yourself, then don't say such things. Sugu didn't know why, but he knew something. If you don't want me to go, I will go. Then go ahead and let's go to your room. He made a gesture to open the door, and then found Lexington holding his hand. No. It's getting weirder and weirder. Sugu said, "Since you have such a request, how can I refuse it? It's rare for my favorite wife to make a request, so I refused, which is outrageous." Lexington showed a pleading expression, looking pitiful, and said, "I was thinking, the Admiral has been away for so long before coming back, of course he must be rewarded. Didn't you always think about it before, but now I promise you, how about putting on the Admiral uniform?" As she spoke, she blinked her eyes, looking so seductive. Sugu thought for a moment and said, "Turn on the light." "Turn on the lights." "Wedding dress." "It's not impossible." In the past, Lexington was quite shy and couldn't do things like uniform temptation. It must be weird to actually make such a request now. Sugu said, "It's better to go to your room." After he finished speaking, he suddenly saw Lexington sitting on the edge of the bed, lowering his head and saying, "The Admiral pushed Akagi down. What a great skill." He handed out the ring and pushed him down in one go. Tisk, 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 tisk. Sugu is no longer the shy young man he was before. He could feel his heartbeat even if he held hands and kissed her. He said, "Akagi is my wedding ship, and you agreed." "I saw South Dakota wearing a ring on his finger. I didn't agree with that." Sugu quickly explained, "It was an accident in South Dakota." Lexington sneered and said, "Unexpected, I have warned you to be careful about South Dakota." Unexpected, there is no way for people to believe it. Oops, Lexington was suddenly the main guest. Sugu said, "Okay, I won't go if I don't go, then, the Admiral uniform is in my wardrobe. I don't want you to play any uniform games with me." Sugu was not the kind of person who gave in easily. Although he still didn't know why, he said, "Then go to your room." Seeing Sugu trying to break the jar, Lexington gave in first. Anyway, he had reached his destination. Wear the Admiral uniform, just wear the Admiral uniform. It will satisfy you, perverted Admiral. After a while, Sugu saw Lexington take out the Admiral uniform and change into it from his inner closet. It must be said that Lexington's appearance in his own Admiral uniform has a completely different and thrilling charm. Seriously, what's wrong with you? You still don't understand. This is already the case, and it should be possible to speak out. Lexington said, "Establish a flag. If the Admiral comes back today, then I will reward the Admiral. Although you can regret it, if you regret it casually, then it will be meaningless to establish a flag in the future. Reward, the reward is sisters." Sugu was stunned for a moment. "Sisters, no wonder, no wonder." He said evilly, "Can I go back on my word? I think it's better to be sisters. You take off my Admiral uniform, let's go to your room," I called Gaga. "Of course not, it's you who refused." Lexington pushed Sugu onto the bed, then mounted on him and strangled Sugu's neck. "I really want to go, it doesn't matter, sisters are sisters. Then please satisfy me first, satisfy me, and then discuss Gaga's affairs. Help, murder your husband." For a long time, Sugu rested his chin on Lexington's shoulder, and at the same time put his hands through Lexington's armpits and hugged him. "Madam, I like you. I like you too. What should I do if I still want sisters? Then do it again. Sorry, I don't want sisters. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 450. The ceiling fan in the office ceiling squeaks and spins, and the sun shines into the room. Saratoga, who was sleeping on the sofa, stretched out a hand to block the sunlight, but the effect was not good. Then she thought about it and felt that this was not an option. She got up from the sofa, walked to the window and pulled up the curtains. Sugu looked at Saratoga. The girl was wearing a white breast-wrapped skirt today, with her entire shoulders exposed. The delicate collarbones, round shoulders, and slender arms look youthful and beautiful. Sugu smiled and said, "Gia Gia Gia." Saratoga heard Sugu's voice. She turned around and said, "What's going on?" "Nothing. You look so beautiful in this dress today." "Of course I'm beautiful." Sugu added, "Gia Gia Gia Gia." Saratoga wrinkled her nose and said, "So, brother-in-law, what's wrong with you? You've done this many times today." "Nothing." Sugu said. He saw Saratoga showing an impatient expression. In fact, he just remembered the sisters Lexington mentioned last night. Even though a day passed, there was no way to forget that tempting offer. "Brother-in-law, you are really strange. Why do you keep looking at me and making a strange smile?" Of course Saratoga didn't know what Sugu was thinking. She pursed her lips, a little troubled. "My brother-in-law has been looking at me strangely since morning." Of course she knew where her sister would go if she wasn't in the room at night. Anyway, she was doing some dirty things behind her back. However, this is not the first time this has happened, so there is no need to look at yourself strangely today. Sugu said, "Ask your sister." Lexington was sorting documents in the office. She said, "Ignore him, he is a pervert. My Gaga is the cutest and most beautiful. It's really baffling and I can't stand two people. Gaga Gaga Gaga." Saratoga finally couldn't bear it anymore and said, "Brother-in-law, I'm angry if you do this again." Sugu saw his sister-in-law's eyebrows raised as if she was angry. It should be said that her eyebrows were raised upside down. He said, "Well, let's not talk about it. I am looking at you and wondering what is the difference between you and your sister." Place. Saratoga wasn't actually angry. How could she be so easily angry? When she heard Sugu's words, she lowered her head and said, "There are many differences. First of all, my hair color is different, and I am younger and more beautiful than my sister." The girl praised herself without hesitation. Of course Sugu knew the difference between Lexington and Saratoga, no need to ask why he knew it. The two are sisters, and their appearance and eyebrows are very similar. In addition to the difference in hair color, Saratoga is shorter and slender because of her youth, unlike Lexington, which is plump. After all, she is a girl and a wife. That's what you're thinking about. Yes. You can tell the difference at a glance. Well, you're looking at me like that again. Ah, come with me. Saratoga went crazy, and she pulled Sugu to the back of the dormitory building. Except for a big magnolia tree, there was no one here. Then she pushed Sugu to the corner. Although she was shorter than Sugu, she still made Waldong movements. To outsiders, the appearance of the two of them must have seemed a bit strange. "What on earth are you doing? Is there something you have been hiding from me? You are also strange, and so is my sister. Anyway, if you don't tell me, don't even think about going out. If my sister is not here, she can't help you." Saratoga made a small threatening look and bared her teeth. My brother-in-law and sister are really weird. However, he didn't dare to do anything to his sister, so he could only find trouble with his brother-in-law. Sugu looked at his sister-in-law, and so on, and he promised Lexington that he would never tell anyone about it. Of course, although it's not possible now, Sugu never doubts that one day it will be possible. He watched his sister-in-law grinning and then puffing up her cheeks. That look was so cute and beautiful. The sisters have no whereabouts for the time being, so let's collect some interest first. Sugu stretched out his hand to hug Saratoga and breathed into his sister-in-law's ear. Gia, you are so beautiful, I like you so much. I really want sisters, of course I won't say this. After hugging like this, the Waldong will of course have no effect. Sugu then let go of his sister-in-law and strode away. Saratoga felt a little blushing when she took the initiative to hug her for the first time, and she felt her head was a little dizzy. She looked at Sugu's back, stamped her feet, and said, "What are you doing? Forget it. I don't care about you." Sugu walked out from the back of the dormitory building. Next to the stairs, he saw Bismarck and Baizai wearing a crew neck shirt and stroppy sandals. Well, these are also sisters. There are many sisters in the governor's mansion, and the two pairs of sisters who are currently on the wedding ship are these two. Sugu said, "Bismarck." Seeing Sugu, Bismarck said, "What's wrong?" "Admiral." "Nothing." "Well, Baizai." Baizai's medium-length pink hair was a little messy, and she said, "What are you doing?" "I like you." The two of them were left in confusion, and Sugu had already left with a smile. He went back inside the office and Lexington had had enough of him. "Admiral, you have had enough today. It's not you who caused this, it makes people want to go crazy." Lexington's face turned red and he said, "You can have wild imaginations and wishful thinking." Sugu chuckled, and Lexington was furious and continued, "You can't be more serious." "Okay, I'm serious." The smile never fades. Lexington immediately stretched out his hands and pressed them on Sugu's shoulders, gradually applying force. Sugu couldn't stand it and said, "Seriously, I will never be like that anymore." Sugu accepted defeat. Without sisters, there would be no sisters. Then the days gradually calmed down. After returning to the town hall, Sugu rested for a day and officially started working on the third day. He began to understand the various things that happened in the garrison during his absence, sorties, expeditions, and expenses, and did what an admiral should do. Sugu was listening to Lexington's report on work, and Washington was also in the office looking through the files in the town hall. Although she had just come back, she still had a restless character and wanted to take charge of some of the work of the town hall. Soon after, she left with a large pile of files. Lexington looked at Washington's back and said, "Washington can share a lot of things for us." Yes, Washington is a barrister. She is very capable. She feels more and more that I am dispensable. Lexington said, "You are saying this again. You are the backbone of everyone, speaking of which, I didn't expect that, Admiral, you would be able to bring so many people back this time. I didn't expect it either. I have always felt that it is difficult to find someone in the vast sea of people all over the world once they are separated." "Fate, Admiral, do you believe in fate? The Admiral and the ship girl cannot be separated. Even if they are separated temporarily, they will meet again soon." Fate, Sugu thought of his encounter with Xiaozai. If he had gone to the ruined guardhouse a day later, he might have missed Xiaozai. Maybe there was some fate. Although he thought this way, Sugu still said, "As for fate, I don't know if I can meet everyone if I don't do anything. I think God only saves people who save themselves. If I don't look for it, probably no one will meet you. If not, it's not just pure fate." The two people were talking, and suddenly the voice of Xiaozai came over. "U81, lend us your puppy to play with." "Don't want." Sugu saw U81 hiding in the office with his 3 little wolves. Behind the townhouse is the woods. Of course there are many small animals. The little girl has caught many small animals. Although they have no ill intentions and will not do anything to abuse small animals. Just like they have raised hamsters to death in their dreams, they are simply not good at raising small animals. Many small animals have been raised to death, but the 3 little wolves of U81 will not be raised to death no matter what. For this reason, U81's 3 wolves became everyone's pets, and they firmly believed that the 3 wolves were all puppies. After all, U81 couldn't escape the bully group headed by Xiaozai in the town hall. She could only watch Xiaozai and others take away her little wolf. Otto doesn't like people scratching his chin. Don't keep pulling Friedrich's tail. He is not a puppy and cannot wag his tail. Xiaozai said, we know. Sugu watched U81 leave with a group of naughty little girls. He said with some emotion, they are still carefree. I really hope they can continue like this. It is not easy to find everyone, and there are many people out there. I hope everyone can come back, and then everyone can go on like this without any worries. You'll find everyone, Lexington said. Sugu looked at the backs of Xiaozai and the others as they left, and said, speaking of which, except for Washington, where are the others? What are they doing? Nevada is addicted to gambling. Gamble. Whoever loses will drink water. I plan to ban them. Sugu remembered the rumors he had heard before, that the government was researching drugs that could control ship girls. In fact, the ship girl is not controlled by hormones at all, so how can drugs control the ship girl? It is said that some people tried to give drugs to Kanyang, but even drugs were of no use to Kanyang. On the contrary, various comic books, movies, various entertainments, or new clothes, these things are drugs for ship girls. Beizai is addicted to comics, Akagi is addicted to eating, and Nevada likes gambling. Sugu thought for a while, waved his hand and said, let them just have fun. It's one thing for the admiral to agree. Nevada cannot bring down the atmosphere of the garrison. Where are they playing? A new coffee shop in Atlanta. I've been to that coffee shop, and Kent is actually the signature clerk. Sugu recalled going to the coffee shop. The 4 Atlanta-level sisters, as well as the Raiders and Princeton, were all wearing uniforms. It is said that I originally wanted to have uniforms, but then I thought that everyone should have different uniforms. Then there are maids and bunny girls in the coffee shop. Kent is the signature clerk. Her weak and pitiful appearance makes people want to bully her into serving her. Lexington smiled and said, the admiral likes coffee shops. Suguhan said brightly, of course I like it. Lexington stretched out his finger and poked Sugu's chest, then drew circles. Control. Sugu grabbed Lexington's finger and said, I still like the way you look in the admiral uniform. Well, I'll change into a wedding dress next time. Speaking of which, I suddenly remembered that I haven't seen Chi-Chi in the past few days. Berlin, where has she been? Did you just realize she's not here now? Zeppelin stayed in the garrison entirely because he was impressed by Akagi. Or maybe it's because of Bismarck. After all, Bismarck is the eldest sister of Germany. Actually, we can't say that Bismarck is the eldest sister of Germany. Think about it, this is a world, not just a game. There are more powerful ship girls here than Bismarck. In history, it is regarded as the planning ship H-39. It has another name here, called Hindenburg. Sugu said, Chi Bolin is not my ship girl. Lexington said, you have made Zeppelin sad like this. She has been in the town hall for half a year and has already recognized you. As long as you show her favor now, you might be able to hold her hand. Zeppelin, don't lie to me. Lexington smiled and said, a few days before you came back, Zeppelin went back to the Naval Academy. He must have been preparing for the exam in the past 2 days. Sugu thought of the time for the exam, which was probably around this time, and said, Chi Bolin is very busy. Zeppelin is busy, Of course Zeppelin is busy. Inside the Naval Academy, she walked around, commanding someone. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 451. The record player played soft and melodious music, and the globe turned with the fingers. She still looks young and beautiful, and the clothes she wears are not the red and green colors that are the favorite colors of middle-aged and elderly women. Wearing a simple dress, the headmaster Warspite can still give people the feeling that he is no longer young. Maybe it's because of her temperament, maybe it's because of her slow way of speaking, or maybe it's because of her outdated etiquette, but in short, she feels like an old woman. Of course, if you talk about grandma in front of her, you will definitely be taught a lesson. The dean, who looks harmless to outsiders, has only one sore spot. Inside the office, the curtains were drawn, making it a little dark. Warspite doesn't like the bright sunshine and feels that he has passed the age of the rising Sunday. If it weren't for the fact that I still couldn't let go of the entire academy, I wouldn't actually have much attachment to life. Thinking that someone can take over your position, you must go on a voyage to the depths of the sea. But she couldn't do that after all. There were still too many things waiting for her in the academy. These things are yours. Zeppelin held a large pile of documents and threw them on the desk. He reached out and picked up the paperweight placed next to him and pressed it on top of the documents. Zeppelin continued to complain, "I have been away for such a long time, and now you are asked to come back to help you clean up the mess. After you read these things, sign them immediately." Zanwei took out a pair of glasses from the drawer and put them on. In fact, she didn't have presbyopia at all, but she just felt that wearing glasses was more in line with her identity. She said, "Zeppelin, you can't show any respect to the elderly." "Yes, yes, old man, you are an old man, please review it." Wearing glasses, Warspite was already leaning on the desk, raised his head slightly, and whispered, "I'm only 17 years old." Zeppelin raised his hand and slapped it on the desk, making a pop-dash sound. "Are you done yet?" Zeppelin seemed rather rude, but this was the way the two of them got along, and it had been like this a long time ago. Warspite held the pen and signed her name on the document. After signing several documents, she said, "Zeppelin, you are very good at using it. Otherwise, please come back. No return. I shouldn't have let you out before. Where could I find such a practical person? Now that I think about it, it's really a big loss. If you don't let me go, if I want to leave, can you still stop me?" "No, no, no, if you want to stop a ship girl, you can never use force. Force is useless against a ship girl. No need to use force, no matter how you stop me, I have no spiritual weakness. The only weakness of the ship girl is the soul, which comes from emotions." For Zeppelin, he serves as an instructor in the college and manages many things in the college. "Naturally, I have done a lot of things to offend people, and encountered a lot of vicious insults and slander. However, she is not like the average fragile ship girl who gets hurt easily. Especially now that I have met Xiaozai, Saratoga, and Lafite, and have come out of the injury, my mind has become stronger." Zeppelin vowed and said, "I beg you to stay. You will definitely stay. You are quite emotional." "Begging me? Who? I don't have many friends in the academy, and I have many rivals. What about me? I'm your senior. I beg you." "How about begging?" Zeppelin said, "I have worked here for many years, and I have paid you enough favors. You are not even close. How about I get down on my knees and beg?" Zeppelin's expression was dull and slightly embarrassed. Warspite chuckled and said, "Just kidding, just kidding. It's disrespectful to be old. I'm very young." Zeppelin showed a sarcastic face, thinking, because of the ship girl, you still look young, but your heart is already old. Warweary said, "If you only care about the country's life and death, How can you avoid it because of misfortunes and blessings? Boom. Zeppelin was really angry this time. Warspite quickly waved his hand and said, "Don't be angry, my little Zeppelin, speaking of which, you were like this in that little guy's garrison? Is the ship girl in that garrison as rumored, with gorgeous equipment and various functions? Very strong." Zeppelin recalled his experience in the garrison. As an instructor, he could not defeat anyone and had no dignity at all. She nodded and said, "Some are strong and some are weak. The strong ones are stronger than the rumors, and the weak ones are just as weak. How does that compare to me? Although you are pretty good, you are still a little bit worse. That's not right. The equipment all over my body is rated as golden equipment by those people. Especially with the combination of my powerful ship equipment, I haven't met an opponent for many years. You have no opponent, but you just don't go out. You are the Warspite, a World War I ship from the old world. The ship's equipment is old and the speed is still slow. It's your equipment that is holding you back. The Bismarck is also a warship, which does not prevent her from being very strong, and so am I. Bismarck has the emotional bonus, and he can still win a big victory over the Hood in 2 or 3 blows. Think about the Warspite in the old world. It has experienced so many battles and has a lot of emotions. So you're a grandma." Warspite glared. Zeppelin said, okay, veterans never die, they just fade away." Warspite smiled slightly. Talking casually, Jean-Sien did not read the content at all. After signing all the documents, she said, "It's finally finished. Seriously, Zeppelin, aren't you going to stay? I'm giving you a step up." Zeppelin put the documents away again, picked them up, and said, "If you return the steps, you can lift me, but I have no interest in staying here. Sheik Hung went on a long trip, and I just came back. I just came here to help with the exam. Once the written test and interview are over, don't call me. I won't talk to you anymore, I have something else to do and I'm leaving." Zeppelin, you are really merciless. Zeppelin left the office with the documents in his arms, walked through the corridor filled with potted plants, and saw Nelson on the stairs when he went downstairs. Nelson, the opponent, was a rival in the past. But now, she no longer regards Nelson as an enemy. Originally, the two men were equally matched in fighting ability, and they always had to compete with each other. Now that I have seen higher scenery, I have no interest in those. Two people can now walk side by side instead of arguing. Nelson said, "Get ready for the exam tomorrow. The invigilator has made arrangements." "No problem." "How many people signed up this time?" "A lot, more than last year." "Well, you act like you are my leader." Nelson smiled and said, "You are the firefighter specially retrieved by the dean. You made such a mess over this little thing and had to come back to put out the fire. Anyway, I'll leave after I finish my work." "You really joined the garrison?" "I'm still the instructor." "How can I have an instructor like you who has been here for half a year?" The two went downstairs and walked through the corridor. They saw someone sitting on a bench on the roadside with a little girl in the college square. The little girl is very cute and she is obviously a ship girl. However, that person was not a student in the college. As instructors of the college, there were not many students in the college, so they still recognized every student. Moreover, the man looked young, and the little girl also looked young, so she was probably a test taker. Every year, several people who already have ship girls come to take the exam. Generally speaking, even if you get a ship girl or build a ship girl by accident, it does not mean that you are an admiral. He must be recognized by the ship girl headquarters, be established and have a formal garrison, and then he can be considered an official admiral. Being able to obtain a ship girl only means that a person can be recognized by the history and memory of steel, which has merit. Kind people and perseverance can win the recognition of the ship girl, but it does not mean that they can become admirals. If you want to become an admiral, you can't just be kind. You must be ruthless and persistent enough, and be ruthless when necessary. Although many admirals act a bit funny, none of them are actually that simple. Be persistent and will not be easily influenced by others. Smart and not easily deceived. Be ruthless when you should be ruthless. Mary's disease cannot make you an admiral. There is no establishment, no recognition from the ship girl headquarters, and no supplies. If you just live on, there are no problems, and if you want to attack, the resources cannot afford it. Even if the government or a large company privately sponsors someone to build a town fort, they still dare not make a big show of it publicly, which is still very difficult. Anyway, if you have a ship girl and want to become an admiral, you still need to take an exam to obtain the rank. Of course, if you already have a girlfriend, it means you are a pretty good person and you will be able to show off during the interview. Nelson looked at the little girl eating snacks in the distance. She had short orange hair. The appearance of each ship girl is actually different. Without opening the ship uniform, it is difficult for them to judge what kind of ship girl it is. Zeppelin, who do you think that is? Usually it's a destroyer. But maybe Veneto has that kind of build, and maybe Spey. Well, what have you been looking at? Nelson followed Zeppelin's line of sight and saw two people there. One has short hair, one has long hair, and two are tall. Judging from their figures and backs, they seem to be a pair of sisters, so close. Judging from their sitting postures, they look like an admiral and a ship girl. One sits casually, and the other sits dignified. The sisters' personalities are not, the gap is so big. Are they coming here to take the exam too? Only by owning a garrison can one be considered an admiral in the true sense. But just like the deputy director is called director, and the deputy manager is called manager, there is no need to call the new admiral, the trainee admiral, the preparatory admiral, or the person carrying the sedan chair. As long as the ship girl recognizes it, everyone will call him admiral. Zeppelin looked away and said, I don't know, it's possible. Let's go over and ask. I'm still holding a lot of stuff, forget it. They stood up and were ready to leave. There's no need to catch up. Zeppelin left first, looking back several times before leaving.